half-main engine start. 2, 1. Booster ignition and the final liftoff of Discovery. A tribute to the dedication, hard work, and pride of America's space shuttle team. The shuttle has cleared the tower.
Hey there, folks! Welcome back to our channel. Today, we're diving into the fascinating world of Pennsylvania, also known as the Keystone State. This state has a rich history, diverse geography, and a thriving economy. Let's explore some key aspects of Pennsylvania. First off, Pennsylvania is a state with a rich history, dating back to 1802. It's known as the Keystone State because it was the central state in the original 13 colonies. The state's geography is diverse, with mountains, valleys, and rolling hills. It's home to over 13 million people, with a diverse population. The state's economy is strong, with a GDP of over $700 billion. It's known for its manufacturing, healthcare, and education sectors. The state government is headed by the governor, and politics in Pennsylvania can be lively. Education is important in Pennsylvania, with over 200 colleges and universities. Recreation in Pennsylvania is diverse, with outdoor activities, sports, and cultural events. Transportation is well developed, with air, bus, and coach services, highways, and roads, as well as rail and water transportation. Pennsylvania has a rich culture with unique nicknames, notable people, and sister regions. So, there you have it, folks. A quick overview of Pennsylvania, the Keystone State. Thanks for joining us, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more interesting facts and trivia. Next, Pennsylvania, officially the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, is a state spanning the Mid-Atlantic, Northeastern, Appalachian, and Great Lakes regions of the United States. It borders Delaware to its southeast, Maryland to its south, West Virginia to its southwest, Ohio and the Ohio River to its west, Lake Erie and New York to its north, the Delaware River and New Jersey to its east, and the Canadian province of Ontario to its northwest via Lake Erie. Pennsylvania's most populous city is Philadelphia. Pennsylvania was founded in 1681 through a royal land grant to William Penn, the son of the state's namesake. Before that, between 1638 and 1655, the southeast portion of the state was part of New Sweden, a Swedish colony. Established as a haven for religious and political tolerance, the colonial-era province of Pennsylvania was known for its relatively peaceful relations with native tribes, innovative government system, and religious pluralism. Pennsylvania later played a vital and historic role in the American Revolution and the ultimately successful quest for independence from the British Empire, hosting the First and Second Continental Congress in Philadelphia, which formed the Continental Army and elected George Washington as its commander in 1775 during the American Revolutionary War, and unanimously adopted the Declaration of Independence the following year, 8. In 1787, following the establishment of the nation's independence, the Constitution of the United States, now the world's oldest and longest-standing written and codified national constitution, was written at the Constitutional Convention in Philadelphia and was ratified in Philadelphia the following year. On December 12, 1787, Pennsylvania was the second state to ratify the U.S. Constitution. 9 in July 1863, during the American Civil War, the Battle of Gettysburg, fought over 3 days in and around Gettysburg, was the deadliest battle of both the Civil War and of any battle in American military history, with over 50,000 Union and Confederate fatalities. But the success of the Union Army at Gettysburg in repelling Confederate General Robert E. Lee's attempt to invade the North also proved the Civil War's turning point, leading to the Union's preservation. Recognizing the Union Army's extraordinary sacrifice at Gettysburg, U.S. President Abraham Lincoln visited the Gettysburg battlefield later that year, where he delivered his historic 271-word Gettysburg Address, widely considered one of the most famous speeches in American history. In the late 19th and 20th centuries, Pennsylvania's manufacturing-based economy blossomed, contributing to the development of much of the nation's early infrastructure, including key bridges, skyscrapers, and much of the military hardware that allowed the U.S. to prevail in World War I, World War II, and the Cold War. In the late 1970s and early 1980s, however, the nation's heavy manufacturing base struggled. The nation's two largest steel manufacturers, U.S. Steel in Pittsburgh and Bethlehem Steel in Bethlehem, confronted unprecedented competitive practices from foreign manufacturers and other threats to our historic industry leadership. In 1982, Bethlehem Steel reported an unexpected loss of $1.5 billion United States dollars and abruptly announced that it was suspending most of its operations. The company, which subsequently declared bankruptcy and was dissolved, is often cited as one of the most prominent examples of the impact of deindustrialization in the nation's Rust Belt during the late 20th century. Pennsylvania's geography is highly diverse. The Appalachian Mountains run through the center of the state. The Allegheny and Pocono Mountains span much of northeastern Pennsylvania, and close to 60% of the state is forested. Although it has no ocean shoreline, it has 140 miles, 225 kilometers of waterfront along Lake Erie and the tidal Delaware River. 11. Pennsylvania is the fifth most populous state in the United States, with over 13 million residents as of the 2020 United States Census, its highest decennial census count ever. 3. The state is the 33rd largest by area and has the 9th highest population density among all states. The largest metropolitan statistical area is the southeastern Delaware Valley, including and surrounding Philadelphia, the state's largest and nation's 6th most populous city. The second largest metropolitan area, Greater Pittsburgh, is centered in and around Pittsburgh, the state's second largest city. The state's subsequent 5 most populous cities are Allentown, Reading, Erie, Scranton, and Bethlehem. 12. Indigenous settlement. Pennsylvania's history of human habitation extends thousands of years before the foundation of the colonial province of Pennsylvania in 1681. Archaeologists believe the first settlement of the Americas occurred at least 15,000 years ago, during the last glacial period, though it is unclear when humans first inhabited present-day Pennsylvania. Between 10,000 and 16,000 years ago, Native Americans crossed the two continents, arriving in North America. 13. Meadowcroft Rock Shelter in Jefferson Township includes the earliest known signs of human activity in Pennsylvania and perhaps all of North America. 14. Including the remains of a civilization that existed over 10,000 years ago and possibly predated the Clovis culture. 1514. By 1000 AD, in contrast to their nomadic hunter-gatherer ancestors, the native population of Pennsylvania had developed agricultural techniques and a mixed food economy. 16. By the time European colonization of the Americas began, at least 2 major Native American tribes inhabited Pennsylvania. 15. The first, the Lenape, spoke an Algonquian language and inhabited the eastern region of the state, then known as Lenapoking. It included most of present-day New Jersey and the Lehigh Valley and Delaware Valley regions in eastern and southeastern Pennsylvania. The Lenape's territory ended somewhere between the Delaware River in the east and the Susquehanna River in central Pennsylvania. The second tribe, the Susquehannock, spoke an Iroquois language and were based in eastern Pennsylvania along the Susquehanna River. 17. European disease, and constant warfare, with several neighboring tribes and groups of Europeans weak in these two tribes, and they were grossly outpaced financially as the Hurons and Iroquois blocked them from proceeding west into Ohio during the Beaver Wars. As they lost numbers and land, the Hurons abandoned much of their western territory and moved closer to the Susquehanna River, and the Iroquois and Mohawk tribes moved further north. Northwest of the Allegheny River was the Iroquois and Petun, 1819, who were fragmented into three groups during the Beaver Wars: the Petun of New York, the Wyandot of Ohio, and the Tyontaitacaga of the Kanawha River in southern West Virginia. South of the Allegheny River was a nation known as Calicut, 20, which may have been part of the Monongahela culture. 17th century Maine article, Province of Pennsylvania. William Penn, a Quaker and son of a prominent admiral, founded the colonial province of Pennsylvania in 1681. In the 17th century, the Dutch and the English each claimed both sides of the Delaware River as part of their colonial lands in America. 21:20-23. The Dutch were the first to take possession. 23 by June 3, 1631, the Dutch began settling the Delmarva Peninsula by establishing the Zwanendale colony on the site of present-day Lewes, Delaware. 24. In 1638, Sweden established the New Sweden colony in the region of Fort Christina on the site of present-day Wilmington, Delaware. New Sweden claimed and, for the most part, controlled the lower Delaware River region, including parts of present-day Delaware, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania, but settled few colonists there. 2526. On March 12, 1664, King Charles II of England gave James, Duke of York, a grant that incorporated all lands included in the original Virginia Company of Plymouth Grant and other lands. This grant was in conflict with the Dutch claim for New Netherland, which included parts of today's Pennsylvania. 27. On June 24, 1664, the Duke of York sold the portion of his large grant that included present-day New Jersey to John Berkeley and George Carteret for a proprietary colony. The land was not yet in British possession, but the sale boxed in the portion of New Netherland on the west side of the Delaware River. The British conquest of New Netherland began on August 29, 1664, when New Amsterdam was coerced to surrender while facing cannons on British ships in New York Harbor. 28-29. The conquest was completed in October 1664, when the British captured Fort Casimir in what today is Newcastle, Delaware. The Treaty of Breda between England, France, and the Netherlands confirmed the English conquest on July 21, 1667, 30-31, although there were temporary reversions. On September 12, 1672, during the Third Anglo-Dutch War, the Dutch reconquered New York colony, New Amsterdam, establishing 3 county courts, which went on to become original counties in present-day Delaware and Pennsylvania. The one that later transferred to Pennsylvania was Upland. 32. This was partially reversed on February 9, 1674, when the Treaty of Westminster ended the Third Anglo-Dutch War and reverted all political situations to the status quo ante bellum. The British retained the Dutch counties with their Dutch names. 33. By June 11, 1674, New York reasserted control over the outlying colonies, including Upland, and the names started to be changed to British names by November 11, 1674. 34. Upland was partitioned on November 12, 1674, producing the general outline of the current border between Pennsylvania and Delaware. 35. On February 28, 1681, Charles II granted a land charter 36 to Quaker leader William Penn to repay a debt of £16,000, 37, around £2,100,000 in 2008, adjusting for retail inflation 38 owed to William's father. The transaction represents one of the largest land grants to an individual in history. 3940 Penn proposed that the land be called New Wales, but there were objections to that name, so he recommended Sylvania from the Latin silva, forest, woods. The king named it Pennsylvania, literally Penn's Woods, in honor of Admiral Penn. The younger Penn was embarrassed at this name, fearing that people would think he had named it after himself, but King Charles would not rename the grant. 41 Penn established a government with two innovations, the County Commission and freedom of religion, which were subsequently replicated in many of the 13 colonies. 40 what had been upland on the Pennsylvania side of the Pennsylvania-Delaware border was renamed Chester County when Pennsylvania instituted its colonial governments on March 4, 1681. 40 to 43, Penn signed a peace treaty with Tamenund, leader of the Lenape, which began a long period of friendly relations between the Quakers and the Indians. 40 for additional treaties between Quakers and other tribes followed. The Treaty of Shackamaxon of William Penn was never violated. 45, 46, 47. 18th century. See also Pennsylvania in the American Revolution. Further information. George Washington's crossing of the Delaware River, Philadelphia campaign, and Constitutional Convention United States shelter house in Emmaus, constructed in 1730 by Pennsylvania German settlers, is the oldest continuously occupied building structure in the Lehigh Valley and one of the oldest. In Pennsylvania, 48 Independence Hall in Philadelphia, where the Declaration of Independence and United States Constitution were adopted in 1776 and 1787 to 88, respectively. Bentwin 1730, and when the Pennsylvania colony was shut down by Parliament with the Currency Act in 1764, the Pennsylvania colony made its own paper money to account for the shortage of actual gold and silver. The paper money was called colonial scrip. The colony issued bills of credit, which were as good as gold or silver coins because of their legal tender status. Since they were issued by the government and not a banking institution, they were interest-free, largely defraying the expense of the government and therefore taxation of the people. It also promoted general employment and prosperity, since the government used discretion and did not issue excessive amounts that inflated the currency. Benjamin Franklin had a hand in creating this currency, whose utility, he said, was never to be disputed. The currency also met with cautious approval by Adam Smith. 49 in 1740, Franklin also founded the University of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia. The university, one of 9 colonial colleges, was the first college established in Pennsylvania and one of the first in the nation. Today, it is an Ivy League university, which is routinely ranked among the world's best universities. 50 Dickinson College in Carlisle, founded by Benjamin Rush and named after John Dickinson, was the first college founded after Revolutionary War and the unification of the states. 50. Established in 1773, it was ratified on September 9, 1783, 5 days after the Treaty of Paris. James Smith wrote that in 1763, the Indians again commenced hostilities and were busily engaged in killing and scalping the frontier inhabitants in various parts of Pennsylvania. This state was then a Quaker government, and at the first of this war the frontiers received no assistance from the state. 51 The ensuing hostilities became known as Pontiac's War. After the Stamp Act Congress of 1765, Delegate John Dickinson of Philadelphia wrote the Declaration of Rights and Grievances. The Congress was the first meeting of the 13 colonies, which convened at the request of the Massachusetts Assembly. 9 of the 13 colonies sent delegates. 50 to Dickinson then wrote letters from a farmer in Pennsylvania to the inhabitants of the British colonies, which were published in the Pennsylvania Chronicle between December 2, 1767 and February 15, 1768. When the Founding Fathers convened in Philadelphia in 1774, 12 colonies sent representatives to the First Continental Congress. 53. The Second Continental Congress, which began in May 1775, authored and signed the Declaration of Independence in Philadelphia. 54. But when Philadelphia fell to the British in the Philadelphia Campaign, the Continental Congress moved west, where it met at the Lancaster Courthouse on Saturday, September 27, 1777, and then to York. In York, the Second Continental Congress adopted the Articles of Confederation, largely authored by Pennsylvania Delegate John Dickinson, that formed 13 independent states into a new union. Later, the Constitution was written, and Philadelphia was once again chosen to be cradle to the new nation. 55. The Constitution was drafted and signed at the Pennsylvania State House in Philadelphia, now known as Independence Hall, the same building where the Declaration of Independence was previously adopted and signed in 1776. 56. On December 12, 1787, Pennsylvania was the second state to ratify the U.S. Constitution, 57 5 days after Delaware became the first. At the time, Pennsylvania was the most ethnically and religiously diverse of the 13 colonies. Because a third of Pennsylvania's population spoke German, the Constitution was presented in German so those citizens could participate in the discussion about it. Reverend Frederick Muhlenberg, a Lutheran minister and the first Speaker of the U.S. House of Representatives, acted as chairman of Pennsylvania's ratifying convention. 58. For half a century, the Pennsylvania General Assembly met at various places in the Philadelphia area before it began meeting regularly in Independence Hall in Philadelphia for 63 years. 59, however, events such as the Paxton Boys Massacres of 1763 had made the legislature aware of the need for a central capital. In 1799, the General Assembly moved to the Lancaster Courthouse. 59. 19th century. See also Pennsylvania in the American Civil War, Battle of Gettysburg, Gettysburg Address, and Industrial Revolution in the United States Battle of Gettysburg. An 1887 portrait by Thor D. Fulstrup depicting the Battle of Gettysburg, fought over 3 days from July 1st to July 3rd, 1863, in Gettysburg, which was the deadliest battle in both the Civil War and all of American military history. The Union Army's victory at Gettysburg proved the Civil War's turning point, paving the way for the Union's ultimate victory 2 years later and the nation's preservation. On November 19, 1863, President Abraham Lincoln Center, facing camera, traveled to present-day Gettysburg National Cemetery and delivered the Gettysburg Address, a 271-word address considered one of the most famous speeches in American history. 60-61. The Pennsylvania General Assembly met in the old Dauphin County Courthouse until December 18, 2159, when the federal-style Hills Capitol, named for Lancaster architect Stephen Hills, was constructed on a hilltop land grant of 4 acres set aside for a seat of state government in Harrisburg by the son and namesake of John Harris, Sr., a Yorkshire native who founded a trading post and ferry on the east shore of the Susquehanna River in 1705. 62. The Hills Capitol burned down on February 2, 1897, during a heavy snowstorm, presumably because of a faulty flue. 59. The General Assembly met at a nearby Methodist church until a new capitol could be built. Following an architectural selection contest, Chicago architect Henry Ives Cobb was asked to design and build a replacement building. However, the legislature had little money to allocate to the project. When they dubbed the roughly finished, somewhat industrial Cobb Capitol building complete, the General Assembly refused to occupy the building. In 1901, political and popular indignation prompted a second contest that was restricted to Pennsylvania architects. Joseph Miller Huston of Philadelphia was chosen to design the present Pennsylvania State Capitol. That incorporated Cobb's building into a magnificent public work, finished and dedicated in 1907. 59. From 1857 to 1861, James Buchanan, a Franklin County native, served as the 15th U.S. President, the first president to be born in Pennsylvania. 63. Over 3 days, from July 1st to July 3rd, 1863, during the American Civil War, the Battle of Gettysburg was fought near Gettysburg. The Battle of Gettysburg was the bloodiest battle of both the Civil War and of any battle in American history. The Union Army's victory at Gettysburg also proved the Civil War's turning point, leading to the Union's victory 2 years later and the nation's preservation. Several months later, on November 19, 1863, then U.S. President Abraham Lincoln traveled to Gettysburg, where he participated in a ceremonial consecration of present-day Gettysburg National Cemetery and delivered the Gettysburg Address, a 271-word speech that is one of the most famous speeches in American history. 60 for during the Civil War. An estimated 350,000 Pennsylvanians served in the Union Army, including 8,600 African-American military volunteers. The politics of Pennsylvania were for decades dominated by the financially conservative Republican-aligned Cameron machine, established by U.S. Senator Simon Cameron, 65, who later served as Lincoln's Secretary of War. Control of the machine was subsequently passed on to Cameron's son J. Donald Cameron, whose ineffectiveness resulted in a transfer of power to Matthew Quay and later to Boyce Penrose. The post-Civil War era, known as the Gilded Age, saw the continued rise of industry in Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania was home to some of the largest steel companies in the world. Andrew Carnegie founded the Carnegie Steel Company in Pittsburgh, and Charles M. Schwab founded Bethlehem Steel in Bethlehem. Other titans of industry, including John D. Rockefeller and Jay Gould, also operated in Pennsylvania. In the latter half of the 19th century, the U.S. oil industry was born in western Pennsylvania, which supplied the vast majority of kerosene for years thereafter. As the Pennsylvania oil rush developed, Pennsylvania's oil boom towns, such as Titusville, rose and later fell. Coal mining, primarily in the state's coal region in the northeast region of the state, also was a major industry for much of the 19th and 20th centuries. In 1903, Milton's Hershey began construction on a chocolate factory in Hershey, Pennsylvania. The Hershey Company grew to become the largest chocolate manufacturer in North America. Heinz Company was also founded during this period. These huge companies exercised a large influence on the politics of Pennsylvania. As Henry Demarest Lloyd put it, oil baron John D. Rockefeller had done everything with the Pennsylvania legislature except refine it. 66. Pennsylvania created a Department of Highways and engaged in a vast program of road building, while railroads continued to see heavy usage. Citation needed. The growth of industry eventually provided middle-class incomes to working-class households after the development of labor unions helped them gain living wages. However, the rise of unions also led to a rise of union busting, with several private police forces springing up. 66. Pennsylvania was the location of the first documented organized strike in North America, and Pennsylvania was the location of two hugely prominent strikes: the Great Railroad Strike of 1877 and the Coal Strike of 1902. The 8-hour day was eventually adopted, and the coal and iron police were banned. 67. 20th century Bethlehem Steel in Bethlehem was one of the world's leading steel manufacturers for most of the 19th and 20th century. In 1982, however, it discontinued most of its operations, declared bankruptcy in 2001, and was dissolved in 2003. In the beginning of the 20th century, Pennsylvania's economy was centered on steel manufacturing, logging, coal mining, textile production, and other forms of industrial manufacturing. A surge in immigration to the U.S. during the late 19th and early 20th centuries provided a steady flow of cheap labor for these industries, which often employed children and people who could not speak English from Southern and Eastern Europe. Citation needed. Thousands of Pennsylvanians volunteered during the Spanish-American War. Pennsylvania was an important industrial center during World War I. The state provided over 300,000 soldiers during the war. On May 31, 1918, the Pittsburgh Agreement was signed in Pittsburgh, signed by Tomáš Masaryk, and established Czechoslovakia as an independent nation. In 1922, 310,000 Pennsylvania miners joined the UMW General Coal Strike, which lasted 163 days and shut down most of the state's coal mines. 68. 69. In 1923, President Calvin Coolidge established the Allegheny National Forest under the authority of the Weeks Act of 1911. 70. The forest is located in the northwest part of the state in Elk, Forest, McKean, and Warren counties for the purposes of timber production and watershed protection in the Allegheny River Basin. The Allegheny is the state's only national forest. 71. During World War II, Pennsylvania manufactured 6.6% of total U.S. military armaments for the war, the sixth most of the 48 states. 70. Philadelphia naval shipyards served as an important naval base during the war, and Pennsylvania produced many of the war's most important military leaders, including George C. Marshall, Hap Arnold, Jacob Devers, and Carl Spaatz. During World War II, over 1 million Pennsylvanians served in the armed forces, and more medals of honor were awarded to Pennsylvanians than to individuals from any other state. On March 28, 1979, the 3 Mile Island accident was the most significant nuclear accident in U.S. commercial nuclear power plant history. 73-74. The state was hard hit by the decline and restructuring of the steel industry and other heavy industries during the late 20th century. With job losses came heavy population losses, especially in the state's largest cities. Pittsburgh lost its place among the top 10 most populous cities in the United States in 1950, and Philadelphia dropped to the 5th and is currently the 6th largest city after decades of ranking among the top 3. After 1990, as information-based industries became more important in the economy, state and local governments put more resources into the old, well-established public library system. Some localities, however, used new state funding to cut local taxes. 75. New ethnic groups, especially Hispanics and Latinos, began entering the state to fill low-skilled jobs in agriculture and service industries. For example, in Chester County, Mexican immigrants brought the Spanish language, increased Catholicism, high birth rates, and cuisine when they were hired as agricultural laborers. In some rural localities, they made up half or more of the population. 76. Stateside Puerto Ricans have built a large community in the state's third largest city, Allentown, where they comprise over 40% of the city's population as of 2000. 77. In the late 20th century, as Pennsylvania's historical national and even global leadership in mining largely ceased and its steelmaking and other heavy manufacturing sectors slowed, the state sought to grow its service and other industries to replace the jobs and economic productivity lost from the downturn of these industries. Pittsburgh's concentration of universities has enabled it to be a leader in technology and healthcare. Similarly, Philadelphia has a concentration of university expertise. Healthcare, retail, transportation, and tourism are some of the state's growing industries of the post-industrial era. As in the rest of the nation, most residential population growth has occurred in suburban rather than central city areas, although both major cities have had significant revitalization in their downtown areas. 78. Philadelphia anchors the 7th largest metropolitan area in the country and one of the largest metropolitan areas in the world, and Pittsburgh is the center of the nation's 27th largest metropolitan areas. As of 2020, the Lehigh Valley in eastern Pennsylvania is the nation's 69th largest metropolitan area. 79. Pennsylvania also has 6 additional metropolitan areas that rank among the nation's 200 most populous metropolitan areas. Philadelphia forms part of the Northeast megalopolis and is associated with the northeastern United States. Pittsburgh is part of the Great Lakes megalopolis and is often associated with the Rust Belt. Twenty-first-century further information: Pittsburgh synagogue shooting and United Airlines Flight 93, the Stony Creek Township crash site of Flight 93. One of 4 planes hijacked in the September 11th attacks. The site is now a national memorial. Flight 93 passengers wrestled with Al-Qaeda terrorist hijackers for control of the plane, preventing it from being flown into the White House or U.S. Capitol. 80 during the September 11, 2001, terrorist attacks on the United States, the small town of Shanksville, Pennsylvania, received worldwide attention after United Airlines Flight 93 crashed into a field in Stony Creek Township, located 1.75 miles to 0.82 kilometers. All 40 civilians and for Al-Qaeda hijackers on board were killed. The hijackers had intended to crash the plane into either the United States Capitol or the White House. 80. After learning from family members via airphone of the earlier attacks on the World Trade Center, however, Flight 93's passengers revolted against the hijackers and fought for control of the plane, causing it to crash. It was the only one of the 4 aircraft hijacked that day that never reached its intended target, and the heroism of the passengers has been commemorated. 81. Since 2003, the Teco Annam Convention has been held annually in Pittsburgh. 82. In October 2018, the Tree of Life, Oral Sincha Congregation, a conservative Jewish synagogue, experienced the Pittsburgh synagogue shooting, which resulted in 11 fatalities. 83. On July 13, 2024, near Butler, Pennsylvania, an assassination attempt on the 45th President of the United States, Donald Trump, occurred. Geography Maine article. Geography of Pennsylvania for information. List of counties in Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is 170 miles, 274 kilometers, north to south, and 283 miles, 455 kilometers, east to west. 84. Of a total 46,055 square miles, 119,282 square kilometers, 44,817 square miles, 116,075 square kilometers are land. 490 square miles, 1,269 square kilometers are inland waters, and 749 square miles, 1,940 square kilometers. It is the 33rd largest state in the United States. 86. Pennsylvania has 51 miles, 82 kilometers, 87 of coastline along Lake Erie, and 57 miles, 92 kilometers, 11 of shoreline along the Delaware estuary. Of the original 13 colonies, Pennsylvania is the only state that does not border the Atlantic Ocean. The boundaries of the state are the Mason-Dixon Line 39 for 3N to the south, 12-mile circle on the Pennsylvania-Delaware border, the Delaware River to the east, 8,031 W to the west, and the 40 to N to the north, except for a short segment on the western end where a triangle extends north to Lake Erie. The state has 5 geographical regions: Allegheny Plateau, Ridge and Valley, Atlantic Coastal Plain, Piedmont, and Erie Plain. The Atlantic Plain is one of 8 distinct physiographic divisions of the contiguous United States. Using the USGS physiographic classification system, the Atlantic Plain Division comprises 2 provinces and 6 sections. The Coastal Plain Province is differentiated from the Continental Shelf Province simply based on the portion of the landmass above and below sea level. 1. The lands adjacent to the Atlantic coastline are made up of sandy beaches, marshlands, bays, and barrier islands. It is the flattest of the U.S. physiographic divisions and stretches over 2,200 miles, 3,500 kilometers in length from Cape Cod to the Mexican border, and southward an additional 1,000 miles, 1,600 kilometers to the Yucatan Peninsula. The central and southern Atlantic coast is characterized by barrier and drowned valley coasts. The coastal Atlantic Plain features nearly continuous barriers interrupted by inlets, large embayments with drowned river valleys, and extensive wetlands and marshes. 2. The Atlantic Plain slopes gently seaward from the inland highlands in a series of terraces. This gentle slope continues far into the Atlantic and Gulf of Mexico, forming the continental shelf. The relief at the land-sea interface is so low that the boundary between them is often blurry and indistinct, especially along stretches of the Louisiana bayous and the Florida Everglades. The Erie Plain is a lacustrine plain that borders Lake Erie in North America. From Buffalo, New York, to Cleveland, Ohio, It is quite narrow, at best only a few miles, kilometers wide, but broadens considerably from Cleveland around Lake Erie to southern Ontario, where it forms most of the Ontario Peninsula. The Erie Plain was used in the United States as a natural gateway to the North American interior, and in both the United States and Canada, the plain is heavily populated and provides very fertile agricultural land. The Ridge and Valley Appalachians, also called the Ridge and Valley Province or the Valley and Ridge Appalachians, are a physiographic province of the larger Appalachian Highlands Division. The physiographic province is divided into three sections: the Hudson Valley, the Central, and the Tennessee. The river valleys were areas of indigenous settlements for thousands of years. In the historic period, the Cherokee people had towns along many of the rivers in western South Carolina and North Carolina, as well as on the western side of the Appalachian Mountains in present-day Tennessee. Similarly, the Catawba people occupied areas along the upper Catawba River in western North Carolina to the east of Cherokee County. The Ridge and Valley system presents an important obstacle to east-west land travel even with today's technology. It was a nearly insurmountable barrier to European American migrants who walked for road horses traveling west to settle the Ohio country, and later the Northwest Territory and Oregon country. In the era when animal power dominated transportation, there was no safe way to cross east-west in the middle of the range. Crossing was only possible nearer its extremes, except for a few rough passages open mid-range. During the colonial era, including Cumberland Gap, Braddock's Road, and Forbes Road. These were later improved as America's first national roads, including Wilderness Road, Cumberland Road, Lincoln Highway, designated as U.S. Route 40 and U.S. Route 30 in later years. Early settlers of Ohio, geographically and rich province of the Appalachian Highlands and its three physiographic sections, the Hudson, the Central, and the Tennessee Rivers. The eastern head of the Ridge and Valley region is marked by the Great Appalachian Valley, which lies just west of the Blue Ridge. The western side of the Ridge and Valley region is marked by steep escarpments, such as the Allegheny Front, the Cumberland Mountains, and Walden Ridge. The valley and ridge is located on the west side of the Blue Ridge Mountains. An aerial view of Bedford County, Pennsylvania, showing from center to right, Wills, Evetts, and Tussey Mountains in December 2006. The province extends from southeastern New York in the north through northwestern New Jersey, westward into Pennsylvania through the Lehigh Valley, and southward into Maryland, West Virginia, Kentucky, Tennessee, Georgia, and Alabama. They form a broad arc between the Blue Ridge Mountains and the Appalachian Plateau physiographic province, which includes the Allegheny and Cumberland Plateaus. They are characterized by long, even ridges with long, continuous valleys in between. The Hudson River is a 315-mile, 507 kilometers river that flows from north to south primarily through eastern New York, United States. It originates in the Adirondack Mountains of upstate New York at Henderson Lake in the town of Newcomb, and flows southward through the Hudson Valley to the New York Harbor between New York City and Jersey, a city, eventually draining into the Atlantic Ocean at Upper New York Bay. The river serves as a physical boundary between the states of New Jersey and New York at its southern end. Farther north, it marks local boundaries between several New York counties. The lower half of the river is a tidal estuary, deeper than the body of water into which it flows, occupying the Hudson Fjord, an inlet that formed during the most recent period of North American glaciation, estimated at 26,000 to 13,300 years ago. Even as far north as the city of Troy, the flow of the river changes direction with the tides. The Hudson River runs through the Munsee, Lenape, Mohican, Mohawk, and Haudenosaunee homelands. Prior to European exploration, the river was known as the Mahaconnetuck by the Mohicans, Kanon, No by the Mohawks, and Muhacantuck by the Lenape. The river was subsequently named after Henry Hudson, an Englishman sailing for the Dutch East India Company, who explored it in 1609, and after whom Hudson Bay in Canada is also named. It had previously been observed by Italian explorer Giovanni di Verrazzano sailing for King Francis I of France in 1524, as he became the first European known to have entered the upper New York Bay. But he considered the river to be an estuary. The Dutch called the river the North River, and they called the present-day Delaware River the South River, which formed the spine of the Dutch colony of New Netherland. Settlements of the colony clustered around the Hudson, and its strategic importance as the gateway to the American interior led 2 years of competition between the English and the Dutch over control of the river and colony. During the 18th century, the river valley and its inhabitants were the subject and inspiration of Washington Irving, the first internationally acclaimed American author. In the 19th century, the area inspired the Hudson River School of Landscape Painting, an American pastoral style, as well as the concepts of environmentalism and wilderness. The Hudson River was also the eastern outlet for the Erie Canal, which, when completed in 1825, became an important transportation artery for the early 19th century United States. Pollution in the Hudson River increased in the 20th century, more acutely by mid-century, particularly with industrial contamination from polychlorinated biphenyls, also known by their acronym PCBS. Pollution control regulations, enforcement actions, and restoration projects initiated in the latter 20th century have begun to improve water quality, and restoration work has continued in the 21st century. Tussey Mountain is a stratigraphic ridge in central Pennsylvania, United States, trending east of the Bald Eagle, Brush, Dunning, and Evetts mountain ridges. Its southern foot just crosses the Mason-Dixon line near Flintstone, Maryland, running north 130 kilometers 80 miles to the Seven Mountains of central Pennsylvania, near Tusseyville, making it one of the longest named ridges in this section of the Ridge and Valley Appalachians. The ridge line separates Morrison Cove from the Woodcock Valley and Friends Cove from the Black Valley. Tussey Mountain lies in, and the ridge line forms parts of the borders of Center, Blair, Bedford, and Huntingdon counties. The Flintstone Creek runs around the southern end of the mountain in Maryland. North of there, small streams run through deep gorges, the Sweet Root and Rain Spur Gaps, near Martin Hill. At Everett, the Pennsylvania Turnpike, U.S. Route 30, and the abandoned Huntingdon and Broad Top Mountain Railroad follow the Racedown Branch Uniata River through a deep water gap known as the Narrows. The Yellow Creek runs through Loisburg Gap at Loisburg, Pennsylvania. Maple Run Road passes through a wind gap near Pulpit Hill and Coot Hill, heading west to Woodbury. Pennsylvania Route 164 runs east out of Martinsburg and climbs the west slope with a switchback before crossing the crest. The Frankstown Branch Uniata River runs north along the west foot of the ridge before turning east along U.S. Route 22 at Water Street, the river, road, and rail the abandoned Petersburg Branch, crossing the ridge line through a water gap. The Little Uniata River passes through a nearby water gap at Spruce Creek along with the former Pennsylvania Railroad main line, which tunnels through a spur of the mountain to cut across a loop in the river. Galbraith Run passes through Galbraith Gap near the north end of the ridge, adjacent to the Tussey Mountain ski area in Boalsburg. The Tussey Mountain Ridge is popular with soaring birds and glider pilots ridge soaring along its slopes. This ridge is part of a chain of ridges that stretch south to Tennessee. Tussey Mountain has been designated a Pennsylvania Important Bird Area (EBA), based primarily on its importance as a spring raptor migration site, but also as a long corridor of intact forest habitat, over 50% of which is publicly owned. It is one of the best sites in the eastern United States for viewing the migration of the golden eagle. Pennsylvania's longest footpath, Mid-State Trail, is atop or closely parallels Tussey Mountain for nearly its entire length. In Blair County, Tussey Mountain is sometimes called Huntingdon Mountain, as one reaches Huntingdon by crossing it going east. Conversely, in some parts of Climate Maine article, Climate of Pennsylvania Athkpen Climate Types of Pennsylvania, based on 1991 to 2020 Climate Normal Sodom in North Branch Township in Wyoming County in October 2011. Pennsylvania's diverse topography produces a variety of climates, though the entire state experiences cool to cold winters and very warm, humid summers. Straddling to major zones, much of the state has a humid continental climate, in climate classification DFA or DFB. The southern portion of the state has a humid subtropical climate. The largest city, Philadelphia, has a humid subtropical climate, in CFA. Summers are generally hot and humid. Moving toward the mountainous interior of the state, the winter climate becomes colder, the number of cloudy days increases, and snowfall amounts are greater. Western areas of the state, particularly locations near Lake Erie, can receive over 100 inches to 150 centimeters of snowfall annually, and the entire state receives plentiful precipitation throughout the year. The state may be subject to severe weather from spring through summer into autumn. Tornadoes occur annually in the state, sometimes in large numbers, such as 30 recorded tornadoes in 2011. Violent tornadoes, however, are rarer than they are in states further west. 88 municipalities. Main article. List of municipalities in Pennsylvania. Also, list of counties in Pennsylvania. List of cities in Pennsylvania. List of towns and boroughs in Pennsylvania. List of townships in Pennsylvania. List of county seats in Pennsylvania by population. List of census-designated places in Pennsylvania. And list of populated places in Pennsylvania. In Pennsylvania include Philadelphia, Reading, Lebanon, and Lancaster in the southeast, Pittsburgh in the southwest, and the Tri-Cities of Allentown, Bethlehem, and Easton in the central east, known as the Lehigh Valley. The northeast includes the former anthracite coal mining cities of Scranton, Wilkes-Barre, Pittston, Nanticoke, and Hazleton. Erie is located in the northwest. State College is located in the central region. Williamsport is in the north-central region, with York, Carlisle, and the state capital Harrisburg on the Susquehanna River in the east-central region of the state. Altoona and Johnstown are in the state's west-central region. The state's three most populated cities, in order of size, are Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, and Allentown. Demographic Pennsylvania population density map as of the 2020 U.S. Census. Pennsylvania had a population of 13,011,844, up from 12,700,000 to 1,379 in 2010. Pennsylvania is the fifth most populated state in the U.S. after California, Texas, Florida, and New York. 95. In 2019, net migration to other states resulted in a decrease of 27,718, and immigration from other countries resulted in an increase of 127,007. Net migration to Pennsylvania was 98,289. Migration of native Pennsylvanians resulted in a decrease of 100,000 people. 7.2% of the population was foreign-born as of 2021. 96, 97. Pennsylvania's center of population is in Duncannon in Perry County. 98. According to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development's 2022 Annual Homeless Assessment Report, there were an estimated 12,691 homeless people in Pennsylvania. Place of origin among Pennsylvania residents, as of 2020, nearly 3 out of 4, 74.5%, are native to the state and were born in Pennsylvania. 18.4% were born in a different U.S. state. 1.5% were born in Puerto Rico, U.S. island areas, or born abroad to American parents, and 5.6% were foreign-born. Foreign-born Pennsylvanians are largely from Asia 36.0%, Europe 35.9%, and Latin America 30.6%, with the remainder from Africa 5%. North America 3.1%, and Oceania 0.4%. The state's largest ancestry groups, expressed as a percentage of total people who responded with a particular ancestry for the 2010 census, were German 28.5%, Irish 18.2%, Italian 12.8%, African Americans 9.6%, English 8.5%, Polish 7.2%, and French 4.2%. 100 to 103. As of 2018, the top countries of origin for Pennsylvania's immigrants were India, the Dominican Republic, China, Mexico, and Vietnam. 100 for race and ethnicity. Ethnic origins of Pennsylvania's vast majority of Pennsylvania's population is made up of whites, blacks, and Hispanics, with the latter to being minorities and having significant. Non-Hispanic whites make up the majority of Pennsylvania. They are mostly descended from German, Irish, Scottish, Welsh, Italian, and English immigrants. Rural portions of south-central Pennsylvania are recognized nationally for their Amish communities. Wyoming Valley, including Scranton and Wilkes-Barre, has the highest percentage of white residents of any metropolitan area, with a population of 500,000 or above in the U.S. In Wyoming Valley, 96.2% of the population claim to be white with no Hispanic background. The state's Hispanic or Latino American population grew by 82.6% between 2000 and 2010, marking one of the largest increases in a state's Hispanic population. The significant growth of the Hispanic or Latino population is due to migration to the state, mainly from Puerto Rico, a U.S. territory, and to a lesser extent immigration from countries such as the Dominican Republic, Mexico, and various Central and South American nations, and a wave of Hispanic and Latinos leaving New York City and New Jersey for more affordable living. Citation needed. Romani people have been present in the state since the mid-1800s. 105. The majority of Hispanic or Latino Americans in Pennsylvania are of Puerto Rican descent. 106. 107. Most of the remaining Hispanic or Latino population is made up of Mexicans and Dominicans, and the majority of Hispanics and Latinos are concentrated in Philadelphia, the Lehigh Valley, and south-central Pennsylvania. 108. The Hispanic or Latino population is greatest in Bethlehem, Allentown, Reading, Lancaster, York, and around Philadelphia. As of 2010, the vast majority of Hispanics and Latino Americans in Pennsylvania, about 85%, live within a 150-mile to 140 kilometers radius of Philadelphia, and about 20% live in the city itself. The Asian population swelled by almost 60%, mostly Indian, Vietnamese, and Chinese immigrants, and many Asians moving to Philadelphia from New York City. The rapid growth of this community has given Pennsylvania one of the largest Asian populations in the nation. The African American population grew by 13%, which was the largest increase in that population among the state's peers of New York, New Jersey, Ohio, Illinois, and Michigan. 109. Pennsylvania has a high in-migration of Black and Hispanic people from other nearby states, with the eastern and south-central portions of the state seeing the bulk of the increases. 110. 111. Among the state's Black population, the vast majority in the state are African American. There are also a growing number of Black residents of West Indian, recent African, and Hispanic or Latino origins. 112. Most Blacks live in the Philadelphia area, Pittsburgh, or south-central Pennsylvania. Citation needed. Additionally, in 2020, 31,052 identified as being Native American alone, and 158,112 did in combination with one or more other races. 113. Religion. Religious self-identification in Pennsylvania. April 2023 Franklin and Marshall College poll, 132, unaffiliated 32%, Protestantism 29%, Catholicism 24%, other 14%. Of the original 13 colonies, Pennsylvania and Rhode Island had the most religious freedom. 133. Voltaire, writing of William Penn in 1733, observed, "The new sovereign also enacted several wise and wholesome laws for his colony, which have remained invariably the same to this day. The chief is, to ill-treat no person on account of religion, and to consider as brethren all those who believe in one God." 130. For one result of this uncommon freedom was a wide religious diversity, which continues to the present. Pennsylvania's population in 2010 was 12,700,000 to 1,379. Of these, 6,838,440, 53.8%, were estimated to belong to some sort of organized religion. According to the Association of Religion Data Archives (ARDA) at Pennsylvania State University, the largest religious bodies in Pennsylvania by adherents were the Catholic Church with 3,503, 28 adherents, the United Methodist Church with 591,730 for members, and the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America with 501,970 for members. Since 2014, among the state's religious population, 73% were Christian, according to Pew Research Center. 135. In 2020, the Public Religion Research Institute estimated 68% of the population identified with Christianity. 136. As of 2014, 47% of all Pennsylvanians identified as Protestants, making Protestantism far and away the most prominent religious affiliation among Pennsylvanians. Among all self-identified Christians in the state, however, 24% identified as Catholics, the most of any Christian religious affiliation. In April 2023, a Franklin and Marshall College poll found that a plurality of Pennsylvania residents were unaffiliated, with the rest predominantly being Protestant or Catholic. 130 to Pennsylvania, especially the greater Pittsburgh area, has one of the largest communities of Presbyterians in the nation, the third highest by percentage of population, and the largest outright in membership as Protestant Christians. 137. The American Presbyterian Church, with about 250,000 members and 1,011 congregations, is the largest Presbyterian denomination, and the Presbyterian Church in America is also significant. With 112 congregations and approximately 23,000 adherents, the EPC has around 50 congregations, including the Echo, according to 2010 estimates. The fourth largest Protestant denomination, the United Church of Christ, has 180,000 members and 627 congregations in the state. The American Baptist Churches USA, also referred to as the Northern Baptist Convention, is based in King of Prussia. Pennsylvania was the center state of the German Reformed denomination from the 1700s. 138. Bethlehem is one of the headquarters of the Moravian Church in the U.S. Pennsylvania also has a very large Amish population, second only to Ohio among U.S. states. 139. As of 2000, there was a total Amish population of 47,860 in Pennsylvania and an additional 146,416 Mennonites and 91,200 Brethren. The total Anabaptist population, including Bruderhof, was 232,631. About 2% of the population. 140, while Pennsylvania owes its existence to Quakers, and much of the historic character of Pennsylvania is ideologically rooted in the teachings of the Religious Society of Friends, as they are officially known. Practicing Quakers are a small minority of about 10,000 adherents as of 2010. 141. Economy. See also, List of Pennsylvania counties by per capita income as of 2024. Pennsylvania's gross state product GSP is $1.017 trillion, the sixth largest among all U.S. states, behind California, Texas, New York, Florida, and Illinois. If Pennsylvania were an independent country, its economy, as of 2023, would rank as the 20th largest in the world. 143. On a per capita basis, Pennsylvania's 2021 per capita income of $68,957 ranks 21st among the 50 states. 144. As of 2016, there were 5,354, 960 for people in employment in Pennsylvania, with 301,480 for total employer establishments. As of January 2024, the state's unemployment rate is 3.4%. 145. The state has 5 manufacturing centers: Philadelphia in the southeast, Pittsburgh in the southwest, Erie in the northwest, Scranton-Wilkes-Barre in the northeast, and the Lehigh Valley in the east. 146. Pennsylvania is home to 23 of the nation's 500 largest companies that comprise the Fortune 500, including to that rank in the top 100, Cencora, formerly AmerisourceBergen in Conshohocken, which is the nation's 11th largest company, and Comcast in Philadelphia, which is the 29th largest. 147. Philadelphia is home to 6 of the Fortune 500 companies. 148, with more located in suburbs like King of Prussia. It is a leader in the financial 149 and insurance industries. Pittsburgh is home to 8 Fortune 500 companies, including U.S. Steel, PPG Industries, Heinz, and GE Transportation. 148. Hershey is home to the Hershey Company, one of the world's largest chocolate manufacturers. In eastern Pennsylvania, the Lehigh Valley has become an epicenter for the growth of the U.S. logistics industry, including warehousing and the intermodal transport of goods. 150. Like many U.S. states, Walmart is the largest private employer in Pennsylvania. The state's second largest employer is the University of Pennsylvania, an Ivy League private research university in Philadelphia. 151. Pennsylvania is home to the oldest investor-owned utility company in the U.S., the York Water Company. As of 2018, Pennsylvania ranks first in the nation in a few economic sectors and niches, including barrels of beer produced annually 3.9 million, farmers markets over 6,000, food processing companies to 1,300, hardwood lumber production 1 billion board feet annually, mushroom farms 68, natural gas production, potato chip manufacturing 20 for facilities manufacturing 1/4 of the nation's total, and pretzel manufacturing 80% of the nation's total. 152 other notable Pennsylvania companies include C.F. Martin and Company, based in Nazareth, which manufactures Martin guitars used by some of the world's most prominent guitarists, including Johnny Cash, Elvis Presley, Bob Dylan, Neil Young, John Lennon, Kurt Cobain, Eric Clapton, and others. 153. Agriculture. Main article. Agriculture in Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania ranks 19th overall among all states in agricultural production. 154. Its leading agricultural products are mushrooms, apples, Christmas trees, layer chickens, nursery, sod, milk, corn for silage, grapes, including juice grapes, and horses production. Pennsylvania ranks 8th in the nation in winemaking. The Pennsylvania Department of Agriculture worked with private companies to establish PA Preferred as a way to brand agricultural products grown or made in the state. 155. The financial impact of agriculture in Pennsylvania. 156 includes employment of more than 6,800 people employed by the food manufacturing industry and over $1.7 billion in food product export as of 2011. Agriculture is a major industry in the U.S. Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. 1. As of the most recent United States Census of Agriculture, conducted in 2017, there were 557 farms in Pennsylvania, covering an area of 7,278, 668 acres to 1,945,572 hectares, with an average size of 137 acres, 55 hectares, per farm. 2. In 2016, Pennsylvania ranked first in the United States in agaricus mushroom production, 63.8% of U.S. sales volume during 2015-16, 3/4 in apple production, 4/4 in Christmas tree production, 5/5 in dairy sales, 6/5 in grape production, and 7th in winemaking. 7. Historically, different geographic locations in Pennsylvania were centers for different forms of agricultural production, with fruit production occurring in the Adams County region, fruit and vegetables in the Lake Erie region, and potatoes in the Lehigh County region. 8. Modern agricultural production in Pennsylvania includes corn, wheat, oats, barley, sorghum, soybeans, tobacco, sunflowers, potatoes, sweet potatoes, among others. To a Christmas tree is a decorated tree, usually an evergreen conifer, such as a spruce, pine, or with the celebration of Christmas. 1. It may also consist of an artificial tree of similar appearance. The custom was developed in Central Europe, particularly Germany and Livonia, now Estonia, and Latvia, where Protestant Christians brought decorated trees into their homes. 4. The tree was traditionally decorated with roses made of colored paper, tinsel, apples, wafers, and confectionery. 2. Moravian Christians began to illuminate Christmas trees with candles. 5. Which were often replaced by Christmas lights after the advent of electrification. 6. Today, there is a wide variety of traditional and modern ornaments, such as garlands, baubles, tinsel, and candy canes. An angel or star might be placed at the top of the tree to represent the angel Gabriel or the Star of Bethlehem, respectively, from the Nativity. 7. 8. Edible items, such as gingerbread, chocolate, and other sweets are also popular and are tied to or hung from the tree's branches with ribbons. The Christmas tree has been historically regarded as a custom of the Lutheran churches, and only in 1982 did the Catholic Church erect the Vatican Christmas tree. 9. In the Western Christian tradition, Christmas trees are variously erected on days such as the first day of Advent, or even as late as Christmas Eve, depending on the country. 10 customs of the same faith hold that it is unlucky to remove Christmas decorations, such as the Christmas tree, before Twelfth Night, and, if they are not taken down on that day, it is appropriate to do so on Candlemas, the latter of which ends the Christmas Epiphany season in some denominations. 10. 11. 12. The Christmas tree is sometimes compared with the Yule tree, especially in discussions of its folkloric origins. 13. 14. 15. Mount Ingino Christmas tree in Gubbio, Italy, is the tallest Christmas tree in the world. 16. Winemaking. Winemaking, or vinification, is the production of wine, starting with the selection of the fruit, its fermentation into alcohol, and the bottling of the finished liquid. The history of winemaking stretches over millennia. There is evidence that suggests that the earliest wine production took place in Georgia and Iran around 6000 to 5000 BC. 1. The science of wine and winemaking is known as enology. Also be called a vintner. The growing of grapes is viticulture, and there are many varieties of grapes. Winemaking can be divided into 2 general categories: still wine production without carbonation and sparkling wine production with carbonation, natural or injected. Red wine, white wine, and rose are the other main categories. Although most wine is made from grapes, it may also be made from other plants. See fruit wine. Other similar light alcoholic drinks, as opposed to beer or spirits, include mead, made by fermenting honey and water, cider apple cider, made by fermenting the juice of apples, and pear cider, made by fermenting the juice of pears, and kumis, made of fermented mare's milk. Manufacturing is the creation or production of goods with the help of equipment, labor, machines, tools, and chemical or biological processing or formulation. It is the essence of the secondary sector of the economy. One unreliable source. The term may refer to a range of human activity, from handicraft to high-tech, but it is most commonly applied to industrial design, in which raw materials from the primary sector are transformed into finished goods on a large scale. Such goods may be sold to other manufacturers for the production of other more complex products, such as aircraft, household appliances, furniture, sports equipment, or automobiles, or distributed via the tertiary industry to end users and consumers, usually through wholesalers, who in turn sell to retailers, who then sell them to individual customers. Manufacturing engineering is the field of engineering that designs and optimizes the manufacturing process, or the steps through which raw materials are transformed into a final product. The manufacturing process begins with product design and materials specification. These materials are then modified through manufacturing to become the desired product. Contemporary manufacturing encompasses all intermediary stages involved in producing and integrating components of a product. Some industries, such as semiconductor and steel manufacturers, use the term fabrication instead. The manufacturing sector is closely connected with the engineering and industrial design industries. An export in international trade is a good produced in one country that is sold into another country, or a service provided in one country for a national or resident of another country. The seller of such goods or the service provider is an exporter. The foreign buyer is an importer. Services that figure in international trade include financial, accounting, and other professional services, tourism, education, as well as intellectual property rights. Exportation of goods often requires the involvement of customs authorities. Banking. First nationally chartered bank in the U.S., the Bank of North America, was founded in 1781 in Philadelphia. After a series of mergers, the Bank of North America is now part of Wells Fargo. Pennsylvania is home to the first nationally chartered bank under the 1863 National Banking Act. That year, the Pittsburgh Savings and Trust Company received a national charter and renamed itself the First National Bank of Pittsburgh as part of the National Banking Act. That bank is still in existence today as PNC and remains based in Pittsburgh. PNC is currently the state's largest and the nation's sixth largest bank. The Bank of North America was the first chartered bank in the United States and served as the country's first de facto central bank. 1. It was chartered by the Congress of the Confederation on May 26, 1781, and opened in Philadelphia on January 7, 1782. 3-4. The bank's founding was based on a plan presented by Superintendent of Finance Robert Morris on May 17, 1781. 5. Including recommendations by Revolutionary-era Founding Father Alexander Hamilton, who was appointed the first U.S. Secretary of the Treasury by George Washington. Although Hamilton later noted the bank's essential contribution to the American Revolutionary War, the Pennsylvania government objected to its privileges and reincorporated it under state law, making it unsuitable as a national bank under the U.S. Constitution. Congress instead chartered the first Bank of the United States, a new bank, in 1791, while the Bank of North America continued as a private concern. The National Banking Acts of 1863 and 1864 were two United States federal banking acts that established a system of national banks chartered at the federal level and created the United States national banking system. They encouraged development of a national currency backed by bank holdings of U.S. Treasury securities and established the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency as part of the United States Department of the Treasury. The act shaped today's national banking system and its support of a uniform U.S. banking policy. The PNC Financial Services Group, Inc., is an American bank holding company and financial services corporation based in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Its banking subsidiary, PNC Bank, operates in 27 states and the District of Columbia, with 2,629 branches and 9,520. PNC Bank is on the list of largest banks in the United States by assets and is one of the largest banks by number of branches, deposits, and number of ATMs. The company also provides financial services such as asset management, wealth management, estate planning, loan servicing, and information processing. PNC is one of the largest small business administration lenders and one of the largest credit card issuers. It also provides asset-based lending to private equity firms and middle-market companies. PNC operates one of the largest treasury management businesses and the second largest leader of asset-based loan syndications in the United States. Harris Williams & Co., a subsidiary of the company, is one of the country's largest mergers and acquisitions advisory firms for middle-market companies. Midland Loan Services, a division of PNC Real Estate based in Overland Park, Kansas, and founded in 1991, is ranked by Mortgage Bankers Association as the second-largest master and primary servicer of commercial bank and savings institution loans. To 1-3 for the name PNC is derived from the initials of both of the bank's two predecessor companies, Pittsburgh National Corporation and Provident National Corporation, which merged in 1983. PNC Mortgage, formerly National City Mortgage, is credited with funding the first mortgage in the United States and has offices across the country. FilmC also, Harrisburg Film and Television, list of films and television shows shot in Pennsylvania, list of films shot in the Lehigh Valley, and list of films shot in Pittsburgh. The Pennsylvania Film Production Tax Credit began in 2004 and stimulated the development of a film industry in the state. 157. The Pennsylvania Film Production Tax Credit is a tax credit program supporting the production of feature films and television programs in Pennsylvania. The tax credit was signed into law by Gov. Ed Rendell in July 2004. 1. The tax credit for qualifying productions equals a 25% reduction in personal income tax, corporate net income, capital stock, foreign franchise tax. 2. However, because most productions filming in Pennsylvania do not incur a tax liability in the state, the credits are fully transferable, which means they can be sold to a company or individual in the state who does have a tax liability. In order to qualify for the tax credit, the production must incur 60% of its total production expenses within Pennsylvania. 2. The credit also applies to individual television shows that are 15 minutes or longer and intended for a national audience. 1. Watchdogs, including the Pennsylvania Common Cause, criticized lobbyist Leslie McCombs for failing to properly register as a lobbyist for Lionsgate Entertainment while lobbying on behalf of the tax credit. 3. A 2009 report from the Legislative Budget and Finance Committee in the Pennsylvania General Assembly found that the tax credit supported for 1,000 jobs and produced for $0.5 million between 2007 and 2008. For during the 2009 Pennsylvania budget impasse, the tax credit was in danger of being repealed. 5. Instead, its total amount was reduced from $75 million to $42 million, with that number increasing to $60 million the next year. 5. The tax credit was expanded again during the state budget negotiations in summer 2016. $65 million will be available for fiscal year 2017-18. 6. The tax credit brought the production of Zach and Miri Make a Porno, The Road, Shelter, Shannon's Rainbow, Sorority Row, and She's Out of My League to the Pittsburgh region in 2008 and 2009. 7. The majority of filming for I Am Number 4 also took place in the greater Pittsburgh area in 2010 due to the tax credit. 8-9. Coal mining in Pennsylvania dates back to the mid-1700s. Since then, over 15 billion tons of coal were removed from the state. Production peaked in 1918. As mine output decreased, some 250,000 acres of mine land were abandoned. 160. As of 2024, the state has the largest inventory of abandoned mines in the United States, creating environmental problems such as water pollution and ground subsidence, which damages above-ground buildings. Allegheny and Westmoreland counties alone account for over 550 abandoned sites. The Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection is responsible for remediation of such problems. 161. Pennsylvania has had 5 constitutions during its statehood. 162, 1776, 1790, 1838, 1874, and 1968. Before that, the province of Pennsylvania was governed for a century by a frame of government, of which there were four versions: 1682, 1683, 1696, and 1701. 162. The capital of Pennsylvania is Harrisburg. The legislature meets there in the state capital. In a 2020 study, Pennsylvania was ranked as the 19th hardest state for citizens to vote. 163. The current governor is Josh Shapiro. The other elected officials composing the executive branch are the Lieutenant Governor Austin Davis, Attorney General Dave Sunday, Auditor General Timothy Deffer, and Pennsylvania Treasurer Stacey Garrity. The governor and lieutenant governor run as a ticket in the general election and are up for re-election every 4 years during the midterm elections. The elections for Attorney General, Auditor General, and Treasurer are held every 4 years, coinciding with a presidential election. 160. For legislative Pennsylvania state capital in Harrisburg. Pennsylvania has a bicameral legislature that was established in the Pennsylvania Constitution, which was ratified in 1790. The original frame of government of William Penn had a unicameral legislature. 165. The General Assembly includes 50 senators and 203 representatives. Tim L. Ward is currently president pro tempore of the state Senate, Joe Pittman the majority leader, and Jay Costa the minority leader. 166. Joanna McClinton is Speaker of the House of Representatives, with Matthew Bradford as majority leader and Brian Cutler as minority leader. 167. As of 2023, the Republicans hold the majority in the state Senate, 28-22, and the Democrats in the State House, 102-101. Pennsylvania is one of only 2 states that currently have divided party control of the state legislature. 168. Judiciary. Pennsylvania is divided into 60 judicial districts. 169. With the exception of Philadelphia County, most have district justices and justices of the peace who preside over most preliminary hearings in felony and misdemeanor offenses, all minor summary criminal offenses, and small civil claims. 169. Most criminal and civil cases originate in the courts of common pleas, which also serve as appellate court. 169. The Superior Court hears all appeals from the courts of common pleas not expressly designated to the Commonwealth Court or Supreme Court. The Superior Court also has original jurisdiction to review probable cause governmental requests for warrants and wiretap surveillance. 169. The Commonwealth Court is limited to appeals from final orders of certain state agencies and certain designated cases from the courts of common pleas. 1. The Supreme Court of Pennsylvania is the state's final appellate court. All judges in Pennsylvania are elected, and the Chief Justice of the state's Supreme Court is determined by seniority. 169. Local government. Pennsylvania is divided into 67 counties. 170 counties are further subdivided into municipalities that are either incorporated as cities, boroughs, or townships. 171. The most populous county in Pennsylvania and 24th most populous county in the United States is Philadelphia County, which includes the city of Philadelphia, with a 2020 population of 1,603,797. The state's least populous county is Cameron, with a population of 4,547. 110 Pennsylvania boroughs are generally smaller in population than the state's cities, and most of the state's cities were incorporated as boroughs prior to being designated cities. 171. There are 958 boroughs in Pennsylvania, all of which are governed by the weak mayor form of mayor-council government. 171. The largest borough in Pennsylvania is State College 40, 501, and the smallest is Centralia. Townships are the third type of municipality in Pennsylvania and are classified as either first-class or second-class townships. There are 1,450 for second-class townships and 93 first-class townships. 170 for second-class townships can become first-class townships if they have a population density greater than 300 inhabitants per square mile, 120 per square kilometers, and a referendum is passed supporting the change. 174. Pennsylvania's largest township is Upper Darby Township, 85,681, and the smallest is East Keating Township. There is one exception to the types of municipalities in Pennsylvania. Bloomsburg was incorporated as a town in 1870 and is, officially, the only town in the state. 175. In 1975, McCandless Township adopted a home rule charter under the name of Town of McCandless, but is, legally, still a first-class township. 176. The state has 56 cities, 958 boroughs, 93 first-class townships, 1,450 for second-class townships, and one town, Bloomsburg, for a total of 2,562 municipalities. Taxation: Pennsylvania had the 15th highest state and local tax burden in the nation as of 2012, according to the Tax Foundation. 177 residents paid a total of $83.7 billion in state and local taxes, with a per capita average of $4,589 annually. Residents share 76% of the total tax burden. Many state politicians have tried to increase the share of taxes paid by out-of-state sources. Suggested revenue sources include taxing natural gas drilling, as Pennsylvania is the only state without such a tax on gas drilling. 178. Additional revenue prospects include trying to place tolls on interstate highways, specifically Interstate 80, which is used heavily by out-of-state commuters with high maintenance costs. 179. Sales taxes provide 39% of Pennsylvania's state revenue. Personal income taxes 34%, motor vehicle taxes about 12%, and taxes on cigarettes and alcoholic beverages 5%. 180. The personal income tax is a flat 3.07%. An individual's taxable income is based on the following 8 types of income: compensation, salary, interest, dividends, net profits from the operation of a business, profession, or farm, net gains or income from the dispositions of property, net gains or income from rents, royalties, patents and copyrights, income derived through estates or trusts, and gambling and lottery winnings other than Pennsylvania lottery winnings. 181 counties, municipalities, and school districts levy taxes on real estate. In addition, some local bodies assess a wage tax on personal income. Generally, the total wage tax rate is capped at 1% of income, but some municipalities with home rule charters may charge more than 1%. 32 of Pennsylvania's 67 counties levy a personal property tax on stocks, bonds, and similar holdings. With the exception of the city of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, municipalities and school districts are allowed to enact a local earned income tax within the purview of Act 32. Residents of these municipalities and school districts are required to file a local income tax return in addition to federal and state returns. This local return is filed with the local income tax collector, a private collection agency appointed by a particular county to collect the local earned income and local services tax, the latter a flat fee deducted from salaried employees working within a particular municipality or school district. 180. To Philadelphia has its own local income taxation system. Philadelphia-based employers are required to withhold the Philadelphia wage tax from the salaries of their employees. Residents of Philadelphia working for an employer are not required to file a local return as long as their Philadelphia wage tax is fully withheld by their employer. If their employer does not withhold the Philadelphia wage tax, residents are required to register with the Revenue Department and file an earnings tax return. Residents of Philadelphia with self-employment income are required to file a net profits tax (NPT) return, while those with business income from Philadelphia sources are required to obtain a commercial activity license (CAL) and pay the business income and receipts tax (BIRT) and the NPT. Residents with unearned income, except interest from checking and savings accounts, are required to file and pay the school income tax at 183. The complexity of Pennsylvania's local tax filing system has been criticized by experts, who note that the outsourcing of collections to private entities is akin to tax farming and that many new residents are caught off guard and end up facing failure to file penalties even if they did not owe any tax. Attempts to transfer local income tax collections to the state level by having a separate local section on the state income tax return. Currently, the method used to collect local income taxes in New York, Maryland, Indiana, and Iowa have been unsuccessful. Politics since the latter half of the 20th century, Pennsylvania has been perceived as a powerful swing state, and winning Pennsylvania has since been deemed as essential to U.S. presidential candidates. Only thrice between 1932 and 1988, 1932, 1948, and 1968, with Franklin D. Roosevelt, Harry S. Truman, and Richard Nixon, respectively, has a presidential candidate been able to win the White House while losing. Between 1992 and 2016, Pennsylvania trended Democratic in presidential elections. Bill Clinton won the state twice by large margins, and Al Gore won it by a slightly closer margin in 2000. In the 2000 for presidential election, John F. Kerry beat President George W. Bush in Pennsylvania 2,938,095 51% to 2,793,847 48%. In the 2008 presidential election, Democrat Barack Obama defeated Republican John McCain in Pennsylvania 3,276,363 54% to 2,655,885 44%. In the 2016 United States presidential election, however, Republican Donald Trump broke the Democratic streak in the state, winning by 2,970,733 48% votes to 2,926,441 47% votes, 186. The state returned to the Democratic column in 2020 by voting for Joe Biden over Trump, 3,458,229 50% to 3,377,674 49%. In 2024, Pennsylvania swung back to Trump, with the former president winning 3,543,308 50% to Vice President Kamala Harris's 3,423,042 49%. The state holds 19 electoral votes, 187, despite voting for the Democratic ticket for president in every election between 1992 and 2012. Pennsylvania has a history of electing Republican U.S. senators. From 2009 to 2011, the state was represented by two Democratic senators for the first time since 1947 after Republican Senator Arlen Specter switched party affiliation. In 2010, Republicans recaptured the U.S. Senate seat and a majority of the state's congressional seats, control of both chambers of the state legislature, and the governorship. Democrats won back the governorship. However, 4 years later in the 2014 election, it was the first time since a governor became eligible for re-election that an incumbent governor had been defeated in a re-election bid. Historically, Democratic strength was concentrated in Philadelphia in the southeast, the Pittsburgh and Johnstown areas in the southwest, and Scranton and Wilkes-Barre in the northeast. Republican strength was concentrated in the Philadelphia suburbs and the more rural areas in the state's central, northeastern, and western portions, some of which have long been considered among the nation's most conservative areas. Since 1992, however, the Philadelphia suburbs have swung Democratic, the brand of republicanism there was traditionally moderate. In the 21st century, however, Pittsburgh suburbs, which historically had been Democratic strongholds, have swung more Republican. Democratic political consultant James Carville once pejoratively described Pennsylvania as Philadelphia in the east, Pittsburgh in the west, and Alabama in the middle, suggesting that political power in the state was based in its two largest cities, which have been reliably Democratic, offset by the state's large rural power base, which has proven equally reliably Republican. Political analysts and editorials refer to central Pennsylvania as the T in statewide elections. The state's three valleys, Delaware, Lehigh, and Wyoming valleys, and Greater Pittsburgh generally vote Democratic, while the majority of the counties in the central part of the state vote Republican. As a result, maps showing the results of statewide elections invariably form a shape that resembles a T. Pennsylvania retains the death penalty, although there is currently a gubernatorial hold on executions. Education Mind article, Education in Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania has 500 public school districts, thousands of private schools, publicly funded colleges and universities, and over 100 private institutions of higher education. Primary and secondary education. South Philadelphia High School on Broad Street in South Philadelphia in February 2010. Under state law, school attendance in Pennsylvania is mandatory for children between ages 8 and 17 or until graduation from an accredited high school, whichever is earlier, unless students are homeschooled. 190 as of 2005. 83.8% of Pennsylvania residents age 18 to 24 are high school graduates. Among residents age 25 and over, 86.7% have graduated from high school. The following are the four-year graduation rates for students completing high school in 2016. 19 among Pennsylvania high school graduates as of 2009. 27.5% of them went on to obtain a bachelor's degree or higher degree. 192. State students consistently do well in standardized testing. In 2007, Pennsylvania ranked 14th in the nation in mathematics, 12th in reading, and 10th in writing for 8th grade students. 193. In 1988, the Pennsylvania General Assembly passed Act 169, which allows parents or guardians to homeschool their children as an alternative to compulsory school attendance. The law specifies varying geographic requirements and responsibilities on the part of parents and school districts. 190 for higher education. See also, list of colleges and universities in Pennsylvania. Statue of Benjamin Franklin on the campus of the University of Pennsylvania in West Philadelphia, which pays tribute to Benjamin Franklin, a founding father who founded the university, now an Ivy League institution and one of the world's top universities. In 195, Pennsylvania has the fourth most higher education institutions of any state, according to Inside Higher Ed, with 250 universities and colleges. 196. The state is ranked second among the nation's top destinations for freshman out-of-state college students, according to NPR PBS affiliate WHYY, which cites a study by the Association of Independent Colleges and Universities of Pennsylvania, AICUP. 197. Pennsylvania is third in the nation for the quantity of best colleges, according to the Wall Street Journal. 198. The Pennsylvania State System of Higher Education, PASS, which includes 14 state-owned universities and colleges, is Pennsylvania's public university system. Westchester University is by far the largest of the 14, with nearly 15,000 students. The Commonwealth System of Higher Education is the organizing body of Pennsylvania's for state-related schools, which include Pennsylvania State University, Lincoln University, the University of Pittsburgh, and Temple University. There are 15 publicly funded two-year community colleges and technical schools in Pennsylvania that are separate from the PASS system, and many private two- and four-year technical schools, colleges, and universities. Carnegie Mellon University, Pennsylvania State University, the University of Pennsylvania, and the University of Pittsburgh are members of the Association of American Universities, an invitation-only organization of leading research universities. Lehigh University, founded in 1865 and located in Bethlehem, is a private research university. The Pennsylvania State University is Pennsylvania's land-grant university. See Grant College. and Space Grant College. The University of Pennsylvania, founded in West Philadelphia in 1740 by Benjamin Franklin, a founding father of the nation, is Pennsylvania's only Ivy League university and is the geographically most southern of the nation's 8 Ivy League universities. The University of Pennsylvania was one of the first universities established in the nation. Its medical school, Perelman School of Medicine, founded in 1765, was the first medical school established in the nation. The Lake Erie College of Osteopathic Medicine Lecum is a private graduate school of medicine, dentistry, and pharmacy with a main campus in Erie, a branch campus in Greensburg, and 2 additional campuses outside Pennsylvania. It is the largest medical school in the United States, 199. The Pennsylvania Academy of the Fine Arts is the first and oldest art school in the United States. 200 Philadelphia College of Pharmacy, now Art of University of the Sciences in Philadelphia, was the first pharmacy school in the United States. Recreation Dorney Park and Wildwater Kingdom's Steel Force and Thunderhawk roller coasters in Allentown. Steel Force is the 8th longest steel roller coaster in the world, with a first drop of 205 feet, 62 meters, and a top speed of 75 miles per hour, 121 kilometers per hour. 200 founded in 1884, Dorney Park and Wildwater Kingdom is the 5th oldest amusement park in the nation. 203 Pennsylvania is home to the nation's first zoo, the Philadelphia Zoo. Other long-accredited AZA zoos include the Erie Zoo and the Pittsburgh Zoo and PPG Aquarium. The Lehigh Valley Zoo and Zoomerica are other notable zoos. Pennsylvania is home to some of the most notable museums in the nation, including the Allentown Art Museum in Allentown, Carnegie Museums in Pittsburgh, the Philadelphia Museum of Art in Philadelphia, and several others. One unique museum is the Houdini Museum in Scranton, the only building in the world devoted to the legendary magician. 205. Pennsylvania is also home to the National Aviary, located in Pittsburgh. All 121 state parks in Pennsylvania feature free admission. Pennsylvania's notable amusement parks include Conneaut Lake Park, Dorney Park and Wildwater Kingdom, Dutch Wonderland, Del Grosso's Amusement Park, Great Wolf Lodge, Hershey Park, Idlewild Park, Kalahari Resorts Poconos, Kennywood, Nobles, Lakemont Park, Sandcastle Water Park, Sesame Place Philadelphia, and Waldemere Park. The largest indoor water park resort on the U.S. East Coast is Splash Lagoon in Erie. The state's notable music festivals include Music Fest, the nation's largest free music festival, held annually each August in Bethlehem. 206, the Philadelphia Folk Festival, Creation Festival, and Purple Door. The Great Allentown Fair, held annually at the Allentown Fairgrounds since the 19th century, is one of the nation's longest-running annual fairs. There are nearly 1 million licensed hunters in Pennsylvania. White-tailed deer, black bear, cottontail rabbit, squirrel, turkey, and grouse are common game species. Pennsylvania is considered one of the finest wild turkey hunting states in the nation, alongside Texas and Alabama. Sport hunting in Pennsylvania provides a massive boost for the state's economy. A report from the Center for Rural Pennsylvania, a legislative agency of the Pennsylvania General Assembly, reported that hunting, fishing, and furticking generated a total of $9.6 billion statewide. The Boone and Crockett Club reports that 5 of the 10 largest black bear entries came from the state, 207. The state also has a tied record for the largest hunter-shot black bear in the Boone and Crockett record books at 733 pounds 332 kilograms and a skull of 23 3/16, tied with a bear shot in California in 1993, 207 as of 2007. Pennsylvania has the second highest number of Boone and Crockett recorded record black bears at 183, behind Wisconsin's 299, 207. Transportation. Pennsylvania Department of Transportation, abbreviated as PennDOT, is responsible for transport issues in Pennsylvania. The Pennsylvania Department of Transportation PennDOT oversees transportation issues in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. The administrator of PennDOT is the Pennsylvania Secretary of Transportation, Michael B. Carroll. PennDOT supports nearly 40,000 miles, 64,000 kilometers of state roads and highways, about 25,400 bridges, and new roadway construction, with the exception of the Pennsylvania Turnpike Commission. Two other modes of transportation supervised or supported by PennDOT include aviation, rail traffic, mass transit, interstate highway shipping traffic, motor vehicle safety and licensing, and driver licensing. PennDOT supports the ports of Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, and Erie. The department's current budget is approximately $3.8 billion in federal and state funds. The state budget is supported by motor vehicle fuel taxes, which are dedicated solely to transportation-related state expenditures. In recent years, PennDOT has focused on intermodal transportation, which is an attempt to enhance commerce and public transportation. PennDOT employs approximately 11,000 people. PennDOT has extensive traffic cameras set up throughout the state's major cities, including Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, Allentown, Erie, Wilkes-Barre, Scranton, and the state capital of Harrisburg. In Wilkes-Barre, cameras are fed through to a television channel for service electric cable customers in the city and its suburbs. Unlike speed cameras, these cameras are primarily installed for its purposes and not for law enforcement. Philadelphia International Airport, the busiest airport in the state and the 21st busiest airport in the nation, with over 13 million passengers in 2023. Pennsylvania has 7 major airports: Philadelphia International, Pittsburgh International, Lehigh Valley International, Harrisburg International, Wilkes-Barre, Scranton International, Erie International, and University Park Airport. A total of 130 for public use airports are located in the state. Philadelphia International Airport IATA, PHL, ICAO, KPHL, FAA LID, PHL, is the primary international airport serving Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, United States. It served 12.4 million passengers annually in 2022, making it the busiest airport in Pennsylvania and the 21st busiest airport in the United States. The airport is located 7 miles 11 kilometers from the city's downtown area and has 22 airlines that offer nearly 500 daily departures to more than 130 destinations worldwide. The airport is the 5th largest hub for American Airlines and serves as American Airlines' primary hub in the northeastern United States and its primary European and transatlantic gateway. The airport is a regional cargo hub for UPS Airlines and a focus city for Frontier Airlines. The airport has service to cities in the United States, Canada, Mexico, the Caribbean, Europe, and the Middle East. As of 2019, the airport offers flights to 140 destinations, 102 of which are domestic and 38 of which international. Much of the airport property is in the city of Philadelphia. Terminal, the international terminal, and the western and southern ends of the airfield are in Tinicum Township, Delaware County. PHL covers 2,300 to acres, 930 to hectares, and has 4 runways. 6 Philadelphia International Airport is an important component of the economies of Philadelphia, the Delaware Valley metropolitan region to which it belongs, and Pennsylvania. The Commonwealth's Aviation Bureau reported in its Pennsylvania Air Service Monitor that the total economic impact made by the state's airports in 2004 was $22 billion. In 2017, the airport commissioned a new economic impact report, which found that it accounted for $15.4 billion in economic activity, $5.4 billion in total earnings, and over 96,000 direct and indirect jobs. In October 2022, the airport gained a direct connection to a Colonial Pipeline fuel supply. Pittsburgh International Airport, originally Greater Pittsburgh Airport and later Greater Pittsburgh International Airport, is a civil military international airport in Findlay Township and Moon Township, Pennsylvania. United States. About 10 miles 15 kilometers west of downtown Pittsburgh. It is the primary international airport serving the greater Pittsburgh region, as well as adjacent areas in West Virginia and Ohio. The airport is owned and operated by the Allegheny County Airport Authority and offers passenger flights to destinations throughout North America and Europe. 4. PIT has 4 runways and covers 10,000 acres, 40 square kilometers. To 5. PIT is the largest civil, public airport in terms of land area in the state of Pennsylvania. 6. Lehigh Valley International Airport, formerly Allentown Bethlehem Easton International Airport, is a domestic airport located in Hanover Township in Lehigh County, Pennsylvania. Lehigh Valley International Airport is located in the center of the Lehigh Valley, roughly 7 miles 11 kilometers northeast of Allentown, 4 miles 6.4 kilometers northwest of Bethlehem, and 11 miles 18 kilometers southwest of Easton. Lehigh Valley International Airport is the 4th busiest passenger airport in Pennsylvania after Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, and Harrisburg International Airports. In 2023, the airport was utilized by 930,946 passengers, the most since 2004, and 275,605,699 pounds of cargo traffic, an all-time cargo traffic record for the airport, for with over 83,000 flights in 2022. Lehigh Valley International Airport is the 3rd busiest airport in Pennsylvania after Philadelphia and Pittsburgh in terms of total flight takeoffs and landings. The airport is also heavily utilized for the transport of air cargo due to the growth of e-commerce and its proximity to major population centers on the East Coast. 5. As of 2022, the airport ships more than 237 million pounds of cargo. Companies such as Amazon.com are using the airport, a major factor in its growth. 6. In the summer of 2024, the airport set an all-time summer passenger traffic record with 297,000 passengers using the airport between June and August. 7. Harrisburg International Airport is a public airport in Middletown, Pennsylvania, for United States, 9 miles 14 kilometers southeast of Harrisburg. It is owned by the Susquehanna Area Regional Airport Authority. 5. The airport code MDT refers to Middletown, the town in which the airport is located. Planes landing at MDT from the south are often routed near 3 Mile Island Nuclear Generating Station, a few miles from the airport. The airport, frequently referred to as HIA, is the primary commercial airport in south-central Pennsylvania and is the 3rd busiest airport in Pennsylvania for passenger enplanements and cargo shipment. T's behind Philadelphia International Airport and Pittsburgh International Airport. 6. 7. Erie International Airport. Tom Ridge Field is a public airport 5 miles 8.0 kilometers southwest of Erie, in Erie County, Pennsylvania, United States. Airline service at Erie faces stiff competition from the Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Buffalo, and Toronto airports, all within 3 hours of Erie by car. In 2004, Erie was the 3rd fastest growing airport in the United States and the fastest growing airport in Pennsylvania. 2. It is 128 miles to 106 kilometers from Pittsburgh, 111 miles 179 kilometers from the Canada-U.S. border, 95 miles 153 kilometers from Cleveland, Ohio, and 105 miles 169 kilometers from Buffalo, New York. The airport is named for former Pennsylvania Governor, former Secretary of United States Secretary of Homeland Security, and Erie native Tom Ridge. First opened in 1952, the airport was initially served by 5 airlines and became a small hub for Trans World Airlines for over 2 decades. The airport underwent a massive $1 billion rebuilding and expansion that was largely designed to U.S. Airways specification so it could become one of their major hubs. Completed in 1992, the new airport was one of the most innovative in the world, dubbed the Airport of the Future by the New York Times. 7. And helped to pioneer modern airport design with its X-shape to reduce distance between gates, underground tram to transport passengers around the airport, and array of shopping options, all of which were cutting edge at the time. Traffic peaked at 20 million passengers in the late 1990s, and U.S. Air peaked at 542 flights and 11,995 employees at the airport in 2001. And the airport was an important pillar of the Pittsburgh economy. 10/11. The downturn in air travel immediately after September 11th attacks badly harmed U.S. Airways' financial state. U.S. Air declared Chapter 11 bankruptcy twice in a row and abandoned Pittsburgh as a hub in 2004, eliminating thousands of jobs and nearly bankrupting the airport itself, which was built largely to suit U.S. Airways' needs. 12/13. U.S. Air's diminished capacity at Pittsburgh opened the door for other airlines to expand operations and better serve local Pittsburgh area passengers rather than focus on connecting passengers. The airport experienced a resurgence in the 2010s, doubling the number of carriers to 16 as the Allegheny County Airport Authority has aggressively courted airlines and lobbied for new passenger routes. 12. Southwest Airlines has increased its presence at the airport in recent years, overtaking American Airlines, which U.S. Airways merged with as the largest carrier in terms of passengers. 14. The airport is also a hub for regional carrier Southern Airways Express. Cargo operations have increased at the airport in recent years. 15. Since the late 2010s, a number of developments have been made, which include a $1.39 billion renovation due to open in 2025 after Delaware eased due to the COVID-19 pandemic. 16, 17, 18. In 2017, the same year that the renovation was announced, 19, the airport became the first in the country to reopen access to the post-security terminal for individuals who are not flying, as long as they can pass through security, after the federal government lifted restrictions put in place after 9/11s. 20. In 2021, the airport became the first in the world with its own microgrid, which provides power to the entire airport with natural gas and solar power. 21. The ongoing renovation will create a new terminal for check-in, security, and baggage claim adjacent to the gates. 22. Eliminating the need for the tram and increasing the number of parking spaces. Officials emphasized that the renovations would make the airport more suited to Pittsburgh, rather than to U.S. Airways. 23. The project will not use any local tax dollars, and airlines will pay most of the costs. 24. Bus and coach intercity bus service is provided between cities in Pennsylvania and other major points in the Northeast by Boltbus, Fullington Trailways, Greyhound Lines, Martz Trailways, Megabus, Urbis, Transbridge Lines, and various Chinatown bus companies. In 2018, Urbis began offering service from Westchester, Malvern, King of Prussia, and Fort Washington to New York City. Boltbus was an intercity bus common carrier and a division of Greyhound Lines that operated from March 2008 until July 2021 in the Northeast and Western United States and British Columbia, Canada. At least one ticket on every bus was randomly sold for $1, excluding handling charges. 1-2. The $1 fare was the basis for its slogan Bolt for a Buck. 3. In the Northeast, Boltbus provided service between New York City and South Station Bus Terminal in Boston, Union Station in Washington, D.C., Penn Station in Baltimore, the Greenbelt Metro Station in Greenbelt, Maryland, Penn Station in Newark, 30th Street Station in Philadelphia, and the Cherry Hill Mall in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. On the West Coast, Boltbus service was offered in Oregon, Washington, and British Columbia, Canada. Service was available between International District, Chinatown Station in Seattle and Portland, Pacific Central Station in Vancouver, Bellingham, Albany, and Eugene. The Boltbus branding incorporated a thunderbolt logo similar to the one used by the British Union of Fascists, but the company claimed that the resemblance was purely coincidental. For 5. When ticketed, passengers were assigned to a boarding group S, a B and C. Passengers who purchased their tickets earlier or were members of the company's loyalty program or had special needs got an earlier boarding group assignment. 6. Mart's Group is a bus company headquartered in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, operating intercity commuter buses, charter buses, and tours. Mart's is a part of the Trailways Transportation System, a network of approximately 70 independent bus companies. Mart's Group operates Mart's Trailways, which provides intercity commuter bus service from the Wyoming Valley cities of Wilkes-Barre and Scranton and the Pocono Mountains in northeastern Pennsylvania to New York City and Philadelphia. Mart's Group operates the Gold Line commuter service and Gray Line sightseeing service in Washington, D.C. Mart's operates the National Coach Works in Virginia and the first-class coach company Trailways serving Tampa and St. Petersburg in Florida. Mart's Bus operates to Amtrak Thruway connecting service lines in Florida and Pennsylvania. Mart's Group also offers interstate and intrastate charter bus services. The company was founded in 1908 by Frank Mart Sr., 1885 to 1936, as the White Transit Company, originally operating local buses in Luzerne County, Pennsylvania. He founded the Frank Mart's Coach Company in 1922 to provide intercity bus service. Mart's helped establish the Trailways Transportation System, which formed a national bus system through alliances between multiple carriers. Ownership of the company remains within the Mart's family, with Scott Henry of the fourth generation serving as president of Mart's Group. Megabus is an intercity bus service operating in the United States and Canada. It is also the operator of the Virginia Breeze bus service. Urbis is an intercity bus network in the United States and Canada. The company serves as a broker between passengers and charter bus operators, marketing bus routes under its brand. 1. Its intercity and commuter bus routes serve cities in New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Delaware, Maryland, Virginia, Washington, D.C., Massachusetts, as well as in Ontario, Canada. The company does not own or operate its fleet of buses, as it acts as an online platform that creates a bus route network by sourcing available charter buses that are often used by schools or churches. 3 Chinatown bus lines are discount intercity bus services in the United States, often operated by Chinese Americans, primarily Fujianese. 1. They operate with lower overhead and lower fares compared to competing services. Destinations include most major cities as well as casinos popular with Asian Americans. As a result of safety issues and several fatal crashes, most Chinatown bus lines were shut down by regulatory authorities in 2012. Others continue to operate with increased oversight. Westchester is a borough and the county seat of Chester County, Pennsylvania, United States. 5 Located in the Philadelphia metropolitan area, the borough had a population of 18,461 at the 2010 census. 6. Westchester is the mailing address for most of its neighboring townships. Much of the Westchester University of Pennsylvania North Campus and the Chester County government are located within the borough. The center of town is located at the intersection of Market and High Streets. Malvern is a borough in Chester County, Pennsylvania, United States. It is 19.4 miles 31.2 kilometers west of Philadelphia. The population was 3,419 at the 2020 census. 3 King of Prussia, nicknamed KOP4, is a census-designated place in Upper Marion Township in Montgomery County, Pennsylvania, United States. The community took its unusual name in the 18th century from a local tavern named the King of Prussia Inn, which was named after King Frederick the Great of Prussia. King of Prussia is considered to be an edge city of Philadelphia, consisting of large amounts of retail and office space situated at the convergence of 4 highways. King of Prussia is located 35 miles 56 kilometers south of Allentown and 15 miles 24 kilometers northwest of Philadelphia. It is considered part of the larger Philadelphia metropolitan area. As of the 2020 census, its population was 22,028. King of Prussia Mall is the 4th largest shopping mall in the U.S. The headquarters of the Nuclear Regulatory Commission Region 1 and American Baptist Churches USA are located in King of Prussia. Fort Washington is a census-designated place and suburb of Philadelphia in Montgomery County, Pennsylvania, United States. The CDP, as of 2020, is entirely in Upper Dublin Township. 3. The population was 5,446 at the 2010 census. New York, often called New York City, NYC. B is the most populous city in the United States, located at the southern tip of New York State on one of the world's largest natural harbors. The city comprises 5 boroughs, each coextensive with a respective county. The city is the geographical and demographic center of both the Northeast megalopolis and the New York metropolitan area, the largest metropolitan area in the United States by both population and urban area. New York is a global center of finance, 12, and commerce, culture, technology, 13, entertainment and media, academics and scientific output, 14, the arts and fashion, and, as home to the headquarters of the United Nations, international diplomacy, with an estimated population in 2024 of 8,478,070 to 56, distributed over 300.46 square miles, 778.2 square kilometers. 4. The city is the most densely populated major city in the United States. New York City has more than double the population of Los Angeles, the nation's second most populous city, 20, with more than 20.1 million people in its metropolitan statistical area, 21, and 23.5 million in its combined statistical area as of 2020. New York City is one of the world's most populous megacities. 22. The city and its metropolitan area are the premier gateway for legal immigration to the United States. As many as 800 languages are spoken in New York City, 23, making it the most linguistically diverse city in the world. In 2021, the city was home to nearly 3.1 million residents born outside the United States, 20, the largest foreign-born population of any city in the world. 20 for New York City traces its origins to Fort Amsterdam and a trading post founded on Manhattan Island by Dutch colonists around 1624. The settlement was named New Amsterdam in 1626 and was chartered as a city in 1653. The city came under English control in 1664 and was temporarily renamed New York after King Charles II granted the lands to his brother, the Duke of York. 25, before being permanently renamed New York in November 1674. Following independence from Great Britain, the city was the national capital of the United States from 1785 until 1790. 26. The modern city was formed by the 1898 consolidation of its 5 boroughs, Manhattan, Brooklyn, Queens, the Bronx, and Staten Island, anchored by Wall Street in the financial district, Manhattan. New York City has been called both the world's premier financial and fintech center 2728 and the most economically powerful city in the world. 29, as of 2022. The New York metropolitan area is the largest metropolitan economy in the world, with a gross metropolitan product of over $2.16 trillion United States dollars. 10. The New York metropolitan area's economy is larger than all but 9 countries in the world. Despite having a 24/7 rapid transit system, New York also leads the world in urban automobile traffic congestion. 30. The city is home to the world's 2 largest stock exchanges by market capitalization of their listed companies, the New York Stock Exchange and NASDAQ. New York City is an established safe haven for global investors. 31. As of 2023, New York City is the most expensive city in the world for expatriates. 32, and has by a wide margin the highest residential rents of any city in the nation. 33. Fifth Avenue is the most expensive shopping street in the world. 30. For New York City is home by a significant margin to the highest number of billionaires. 35 individuals of ultra-high net worth greater than 30 million United States dollars. 36. and millionaires of any city in the world. 37. Highways and roads. See also, list of interstate highways in Pennsylvania, list of state routes in Pennsylvania, and Pennsylvania Turnpike Appended owns 39,861 miles, 150 kilometers, of the 121,770 miles, 195,970 kilometers, of roadway in the state, making it the fifth largest state highway system in the United States. 209. The Pennsylvania Turnpike system is 535 miles, 861 kilometers long, with the main line portion stretching from Ohio to Philadelphia and New Jersey. 209. It is overseen by the Pennsylvania Turnpike Commission. Another major east-west route is Interstate 80, which runs primarily in the northern tier of the state from Ohio to New Jersey at the Delaware Water Gap. Interstate 90 travels the relatively short distance between Ohio and New York through Erie County, in the extreme northwestern part of the state. Primary north-south highways are Interstate 79 from its terminus in Erie through Pittsburgh to West Virginia, Interstate 81 from New York State through Scranton, Lackawanna County, and Harrisburg to Maryland, and Interstate 476, which begins 7 miles 11 kilometers north of the Delaware border in Chester, Delaware County, and travels 132 miles, 212 kilometers to Clark's Summit, where all but 20 miles 32 kilometers of I-476 is the northeast extension of the Pennsylvania Turnpike. The highway south of the Pennsylvania Turnpike is officially called the Veterans Memorial Highway, but is commonly referred to colloquially as the Blue Route. The list of interstate highways in Pennsylvania encompasses 23 interstate highways, 12 primary routes, and 11 auxiliary routes which exist entirely or partially in the U.S. state of Pennsylvania. In Pennsylvania, most of the interstate highways are maintained by the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation, PennDOT. Some stretches are also maintained by the Pennsylvania Turnpike Commission, Delaware River Port Authority, the Delaware River Joint Toll Bridge Commission, and to short stretches maintained by the New York State Department of Transportation, these being the Delaware River Bridge on Interstate 80 for I-84 and a short stretch of the future I-86 in Bradford County. Interstate highways make up 3% of all roadway lane miles in Pennsylvania and have a combined length of 1,953 miles, 3,143 kilometers within the state. 24% of all vehicle traffic is on the interstate system. 1. The Pennsylvania Department of Transportation, PennDOT, is responsible for the establishment and classification of a state highway network, which includes interstate highways, U.S. highways, and state routes. U.S. and interstate highways are classified as state routes in Pennsylvania. The Commonwealth of Pennsylvania established the location referencing system LRS in 1987, which registers all numbered routes in Pennsylvania as Senior X. A state route would be SR 39, a U.S. route would be SR 22, and an interstate route would be SR 80. However, routes which are numbered between 0000 and 0999 are classified as traffic routes, which are abbreviated as PA 39, US 22, and I 80 instead. 1. There are also 4-digit numbers for various state roads over which PennDOT has jurisdiction, but those numbers are not displayed on the roads, except in rural areas, where they are posted with index card-sized small signs. In urban areas, these numbers are somewhat less prominently posted, and these streets are known by the names on the street signs. The Pennsylvania Turnpike, sometimes shortened to Penna Turnpike or PA Turnpike, is a controlled access toll road which is operated by the Pennsylvania Turnpike Commission, PTC, in Pennsylvania. It runs for 360 miles, 580 kilometers across the southern part of the state, connecting Pittsburgh, Harrisburg, and Philadelphia, and passes through 4 tunnels as it crosses the Appalachian Mountains. A component of the interstate highway system, it is part of Interstate 76, I-76, between the Ohio state line and Valley Forge. I-70 runs concurrently with I-76 between New Stanton and Breezewood, Interstate 276, I-76, between Valley Forge and Bristol Township, and I-95 from Bristol Township to the New Jersey state line. The turnpike's western terminus is at the Ohio state line in Lawrence County, where it continues west as the Ohio Turnpike. The eastern terminus is the New Jersey state line at the Delaware River Turnpike toll bridge, which crosses the Delaware River in Bucks County. It continues east as the Pearl Harbor Memorial extension of the New Jersey Turnpike. Electronic tolling system. Tolls may be paid using EasePass or toll by plate, which uses automatic license plate recognition. Cash tolls were collected with a ticket and barrier toll system before they were phased out between 2016 and 2020. The turnpike currently has 15 service plazas, providing food and fuel to travelers. During the 1930s, to improve automobile transportation across the Pennsylvania mountains, using 7 tunnels built for the South Pennsylvania Railroad in the 1880s. It opened in 1940 between Irwin and Carlisle. 6. The Turnpike, an early long-distance limited-access U.S. highway, was a model for future limited-access toll roads and the interstate highway system. It was extended east to Valley Forge in 1957 and west to the Ohio state line in 1951. 8. The road was extended east to the Delaware River in 1954, and construction began on its northeast extension. 9. The Main Line Turnpike was finished in 1956 with the completion of the Delaware River Bridge. 10. From 1960 to 1971, an additional tube was built at 4 of the 2-lane tunnels, with 2 cuts built to replace the 3 others. This made the entirety of the road 4 lanes wide. Improvements continue to be made, rebuilding to meet modern standards, widening portions to 6 lanes, and construction or reconstruction of interchanges. Railum Tracks Pennsylvania on Horseshoe Curve in Logan Township, SEPTA, is the 6th largest transit agency in the United States and operates the commuter, heavy and light rail transit, and transit bus service in the Philadelphia metropolitan area. Pittsburgh Regional Transit is the 25th largest transit agency and provides transit bus and light rail service in and around Pittsburgh. 210 intercity passenger rail transit is provided by Amtrak, with the majority of traffic occurring on the Keystone service in the high-speed Keystone Corridor between Harrisburg and Philadelphia's 30th Street Station before heading north to New York City, and the Northeast Regional, which provides regular high-speed service up and down the Northeast Corridor. The Pennsylvanian follows the same route from New York City to Harrisburg, but extends out to Pittsburgh. The Capital Limited also passes through Pittsburgh, as well as Connellsville, on its way from Chicago to Washington, D.C. 208. Traveling between Chicago and New York City, the Lake Shore Limited passes through Erie once in each direction. 208. There are 67 short-line freight railroads operating in Pennsylvania, the highest number in any U.S. state. 208, with more than 4 million intercity rail passengers in 2018. Philadelphia's 30th Street Station is Amtrak's 3rd busiest train station in the nation after Penn Station in Manhattan and Union Station in Washington, D.C., 211, and North America's 12th busiest train station overall. Commuter rail, or suburban rail, is a passenger rail service that primarily operates within a metropolitan area, connecting commuters to a central city from adjacent suburbs or commuter towns. 1, 2, 3. Commuter rail systems can use locomotive-hauled trains or multiple units, using electric or diesel propulsion. To distance charges or zone pricing may be used. The term can refer to systems with a wide variety of different features and service frequencies, but is often used in contrast to rapid transit or light rail. Some services share similarities with both commuter rail and high-frequency rapid transit. Examples include German S-Bahn in some cities, the Réseau Express Regional RER in Paris, the S-Lines in Milan, many Japanese commuter systems, the East Rail Line in Hong Kong, and some Australasian suburban networks, such as Sydney Trains. Many commuter rail systems share tracks with other passenger services and freight. In North America, commuter rail sometimes refers only to systems that primarily operate during rush hour and offer little to no service for the rest of the day, with regional rail being used to refer to systems that offer all-day service. Light rail or light rail transit, abbreviated to LRT, is a form of passenger urban rail transit that uses rolling stock derived from tram technology while also having some features from heavy rapid transit. The term was coined in 1972 in the United States as an English equivalent for the German word Stadtbahn, meaning city railway. Three different definitions exist in some countries, but in the United States, light rail operates primarily along exclusive rights-of-way and uses either individual tramcars or multiple units coupled together, with a lower capacity and speed than a long heavy rail passenger train or rapid transit system. For 5, 6, 7, 8 narrowly defined, light rail transit uses rolling stock that is similar to that of a traditional tram, while operating at a higher capacity and speed, often on an exclusive right-of-way. In broader usage, light rail transit can include tram-like operations mostly on streets. 9. Some light rail networks have characteristics closer to rapid transit. Only when these systems are fully grade separated. They are referred to as light metros or light rail rapid transit, LRT. 10. Pittsburgh Regional Transit, PRT, is the public agency responsible for St. Public Transportation Services in the greater Pittsburgh region in Pennsylvania. It is the second largest public transit agency in Pennsylvania and the 20th largest in the United States. 3. PRT operates an integrated system of bus, light rail, and funicular services in Pittsburgh and Allegheny County, with limited service to 3 adjacent counties in the greater Pittsburgh region. The agency was founded in 1956 as the Port Authority of Allegheny County and began operating transit service in 1964. PRT pioneered bus rapid transit in the United States with the opening of the South Busway in 1977 and continues to operate bus rapid transit services as a core part of its network. In 2024, the system had a ridership of 37,603,800. The agency changed its public-facing brand to Pittsburgh Regional Transit in 2022, although it is still legally and commonly known as the Port Authority of Allegheny County. The agency is constituted as a port authority under Pennsylvania law and is funded by state, local, and federal funds. PERT is led by a professional CEO who is overseen by a board of directors appointed by Allegheny County, the Pennsylvania General Assembly, and the Governor of Pennsylvania. PRT's Customer Service Center and corporate headquarters are located in the Heinz 57 Center in downtown Pittsburgh. Washington Union Station, known locally as Union Station, is a major train station, transportation hub, and leisure destination in Washington, D.C. designed by Daniel Burnham and opened in 1907. It is Amtrak's second busiest station and North America's 10th busiest railroad station. The station is the southern terminus of the Northeast Corridor, an electrified rail line extending north through major cities including Baltimore, Philadelphia, New York City, and Boston, and the busiest passenger rail line in the nation. In 2015, it served just under 5 million passengers. 7. An intermodal facility. Union Station also serves MARC and VRE commuter rail services, the Washington Metro, the DC streetcar, intercity bus lines, and local Metrobus buses. It carries the IATA airport code of ZWU. At the height of its traffic during World War II, as many as 200,000 passengers passed through the station in a single day. 9. In 1988, a headhouse wing was added and the original station renovated for use as a shopping mall. As of 2014, Union Station was one of the busiest rail facilities and shopping destinations in the United States, visited by over 40 million people a year. 10. However, the COVID-19 pandemic and other factors caused a sharp decline in retail and dining. By late 2022, more than half its commercial space was vacant. 11. but Amtrak is attempting to regain control of the station and plans a major renovation and expansion. The National Railroad Passenger Corporation, doing business as Amtrak, Amtrak, reporting marks AMTK, AMTZ, is the National Passenger Railroad Company of the United States. It operates intercity rail service in 46 of the 48 contiguous U.S. states and 3 Canadian provinces. Amtrak is a portmanteau of the words America and track. Founded in 1971 as a quasi-public corporation to operate many U.S. passenger rail routes, Amtrak receives a combination of state and federal subsidies, but is managed as a for-profit organization. The company's headquarters is located 1 block west of Union Station in Washington, D.C. Amtrak is headed by a board of directors, 2 of whom are the Secretary of Transportation and Chief Executive Officer CEO of Amtrak, while the other 8 members are nominated to serve a term of 5 years. Amtrak's network includes over 500 stations along 21,400 miles, 34,000 kilometers of track. It directly owns approximately 623 miles, 1,003 kilometers of this track and operates an additional 132 miles of track. The remaining mileage is over rail lines owned by other railroad companies. While most track speeds are limited to 79 miles per hour, 127 kilometers per hour, or less, several lines have been upgraded to support top speeds of 110 miles per hour, 180 kilometers per hour, and parts of the Northeast Corridor support top speeds of 160 miles per hour, 260 kilometers per hour. In fiscal year 2022, Amtrak served 20.9 million passengers and had $2.1 billion in revenue, with more than 17,100 employees as of fiscal year 2021. Nearly 87,000 passengers ride more than 300 Amtrak trains daily. Nearly 2/3 of passengers come from the 10 largest metropolitan areas, and 83% of passengers travel on routes shorter than 400 meters. Aisles 645 kilometers. Water Sea also, Port of Philadelphia and Port of Pittsburgh. Port of Pittsburgh is the 2nd largest inland port in the United States and the 18th largest port overall. The Port of Philadelphia is the 24th largest port in the United States, 212 Pennsylvania's only. Port on the Great Lakes is located in Erie. The Allegheny River Lock and Dam 2 is the most used lock operated by the United States Army Corps of Engineers of its 255 nationwide. 213. The dam impounds the Allegheny River near downtown Pittsburgh. Port of Philadelphia generally refers to the publicly owned marine terminals located within Philadelphia city limits along the west bank of the river. These terminals are managed by the Philadelphia Regional Port Authority, Philiport, to an agency of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. The term is sometimes used for Delaware River Port Complex to collectively refer to the ports and energy facilities along the river in the tri-state P&D Delaware Valley region. They include the Port of Salem, the Port of Wilmington, the Port of Chester, the Port of Paulsboro, the Port of Philadelphia, and the Port of Camden. 3 combined, they create one of the largest shipping areas of the United States. In 2016, 2,427 ships arrived at Delaware River port facilities, 577 fruit ships, 470 for petroleum ships, and 431 containerized cargo ships. 4. The Port of Pittsburgh is a vast river traffic region in southwestern Pennsylvania. It spans a 13-county area including Allegheny, Armstrong, Beaver, Blair, Butler, Cambria, Clarion, Fayette, Greene, Indiana, Lawrence, Washington, and Westmoreland counties. It encompasses more than 200 miles of commercially navigable waterways in southwestern Pennsylvania, including the 3 major rivers in this region, the Allegheny, the Monongahela, and the Ohio. These waterways are made navigable by a system of 17 locks and dams. The Port of Pittsburgh supports nearly 200 river terminals and barge industry service suppliers, including privately owned public river terminals. The port complex is served by the CSX and Norfolk Southern Railroads and by 4 interstate highways. The Port of Pittsburgh Commission acts as a comprehensive service for shippers and industry seeking information on the river system. Unlike the Port of Miami, for example, the Port of Pittsburgh does not refer to a specific geographic location, but to the broader geographical context under which the Pittsburgh port industry conducts its broad scope of activity. 1. The Great Lakes, also called the Great Lakes of North America, are a series of large interconnected freshwater lakes spanning the Canada-United States border. The 5 lakes are Superior, Michigan, Huron, Erie, and Ontario, though hydrologically, Michigan and Huron are a single body of water. They are joined by the Straits of Mackinac. The Great Lakes waterway enables modern travel and shipping by water among the lakes. The lakes connect to the Atlantic Ocean via the St. Lawrence River and to the Mississippi River Basin through the Illinois Waterway. The Great Lakes are the largest group of freshwater lakes on Earth by total area and the second largest by total volume. They contain 21% of the world's surface freshwater by volume. 1 to 3. The total surface is 94,250 square miles, 244,106 square kilometers, and the total volume, measured at the low water datum, is 5,439 cubic miles, 22,671 cubic kilometers, for slightly less than the volume of Lake Baikal 5,666 kumi or 23,615 cubic kilometers, 22 to 23% of the world's surface freshwater. Because of their sea-like characteristics, such as rolling waves, sustained winds, strong currents, great depths, and distant horizons, the 5 Great Lakes have long been called inland seas. 5. Depending on how it is measured, by surface area, either Lake Superior or Lake Michigan-Huron is the second largest lake in the world and the largest freshwater lake. Lake Michigan is the largest lake, by surface area, that is entirely within one country, the United States. 6, 7, 8, 9. The Great Lakes began to form at the end of the last glacial period around 14,000 years ago. As retreating ice sheets exposed the basins they had carved into the land, which then filled with meltwater. 10. The lakes have been a major source for transportation, migration, trade, and fishing, serving as a habitat to many aquatic species in a region with much biodiversity. The surrounding region is called the Great Lakes region, which includes the Great Lakes megalopolis. 11. Major cities within the region include, on the American side, from east to west, Buffalo, Cleveland, Detroit, Chicago, and Milwaukee, and, on the Canadian side, Toronto, Hamilton, and Mississauga. The Allegheny River Lock and Dam No. 2, also known as the Highland Park Lock and Dam, in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, is a lock and fixed crest dam from 1932. 2. It crosses the Allegheny River between the Pittsburgh neighborhood of Highland Park and the suburb of Aspinwall. 3. The lock and dam were built by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers as a part of an extensive system of locks and dams to improve navigation along the Allegheny River. It is the most used lock operated by the United States Army Corps of Engineers. Lock and Dam No. 2 is located about 6.7 miles up the Allegheny River from the point in downtown Pittsburgh. Upriver from the dam, Allegheny Pool No. 2 has an average water elevation of 721 feet above sea level and extends about 7.8 miles upriver to Allegheny River Lock and Dam No. 3. Downriver is the Pittsburgh Pool with an average water elevation of 710 feet above sea level. Thus Lock No. 2 lifts and lowers boats about 11 feet between the pools. 5. The Pittsburgh Pool encompasses over 24 miles of navigable water at about 710 feet of elevation. It stretches about 6.2 miles up the Ohio River from the Emsworth Locks and Dam, 11.2 miles up the Monongahela River to the Braddock Locks and Dam, and 6.7 miles up the Allegheny. The Highland Park Bridge crosses the river just above the dam. It was listed on the National Register of Historic Places in 2000. 1. The United States Army Corps of Engineers, USACE, is the military engineering branch of the United States Army. A direct reporting unit, DRU, it has 3 primary mission areas: Engineer Regiment, Military Construction, and Civil Works. USACE has 37,000 civilian and military personnel, to making it one of the world's largest public engineering, design, and construction management agencies. The USACE workforce is approximately 97% civilian, 3% active duty military. The civilian workforce is mainly located in the United States, Europe, and in select Middle East office locations. Civilians do not function as active duty military and are not required to be in active war and combat zones. However, volunteer with pay opportunities do exist for civilians to do so. The day-to-day activities of the 3 mission areas are administered by a lieutenant general known as the Chief of Engineers, Commanding General. The Chief of Engineers commands the Engineer Regiment, comprising combat engineer, rescue, construction, dive, and other specialty units, and answers directly to the Chief of Staff of the Army. Combat engineers, sometimes called sappers, form an integral part of the Army's combined arms team and are found in all Army service components, regular Army, National Guard, and Army Reserve. Their duties are to breach obstacles, construct fighting positions, fixed, floating bridges, and obstacles and defensive positions, place and detonate explosives, conduct route clearance operations, emplace and detect landmines, and fight as provisional infantry when required. For the military construction mission, the Chief of Engineers is directed and supervised by the Assistant Secretary of the Army for Installations, Environment, and Energy, whom the President appoints and the Senate confirms. Military construction relates to construction on military bases and worldwide installations. On the 16th of June 1775, the Continental Congress, gathered in Philadelphia, granted authority for the creation of a chief engineer for the Army. Congress authorized a Corps of Engineers for the United States on the 11th of March 1779. The Corps, as it is known today, came into being on the 16th of March 1802, when the President was authorized to organize and establish a Corps of Engineers, that the said Corps shall be stationed at West Point in the state of New York and shall constitute a military academy. A Corps of Topographical Engineers, authorized on the 4th of July 1838, merged with the Corps of Engineers in March 1863. Civil works are managed and supervised by the Assistant Secretary of the Army. Army civil works include 3 U.S. Congress-authorized business lines: navigation, flood and storm damage protection, and aquatic ecosystem restoration. Civil Works is also tasked with administering the Clean Water Act Section 400 for program, including recreation, hydropower, and water supply at USACE flood control reservoirs, and environmental infrastructure. The Civil Works staff oversee construction, operation, and maintenance of dams, canals, and flood protection in the U.S., as well as a wide range of public works throughout the world. Some of its dams, reservoirs, and flood control projects also serve as public outdoor recreation facilities. Its hydroelectric projects provide 24% of U.S. hydropower capacity. The Corps of Engineers is headquartered in Washington, D.C., and has a budget of $7.8 billion FY/01. For the Corps' mission is to deliver vital public and military engineering services, partnering in peace and war to strengthen our nation's security, energize the economy, and reduce risks from disaster. Foodpat's King of Steaks in South Philadelphia is widely credited with inventing the cheese steak in 1933. 214, The Hershey Company in Hershey in 2008. Author Sharon Hearns Silverman wrote in the Pittsburgh Tribune Review that Pennsylvania was the snack food capital of the world. 215. It leads all other states in the manufacture of pretzels and potato chips. In 1861, as the Civil War was beginning, Sturgis Pretzelhaus in Lidditz was first to introduce the pretzel to American consumers. To other Pennsylvania-based companies, Immergut hand-rolled soft pretzels in Intercourse and Snyder's of Hanover and Hanover are leading national pretzel manufacturers. Two of the nation's three leading potato chip companies are based in Pennsylvania. Utz Brands, which started making chips in Hanover in 1921, and Wise Foods, which started making chips in Berwick the same year. The third, Frito-Lay, is owned by Plano, Texas-based PepsiCo. Additional Pennsylvania-based companies, including Hare's Snacks in Nottingham, Martin's Potato Chips in Thomasville, are popular chip manufacturers. The Hershey Company in Hershey is a nearly $9 billion a year company and one of the world's leading manufacturers of chocolate. The company was founded in Hershey by Milton's Hershey in 1894. 216 Gertrude Hawk Chocolates is based in Dune More. Other notable companies include Just Born in Bethlehem, makers of hot tamales, Mike and Ike's, the Easter favorite Marshmallow Peeps, and Boyer Brothers of Altoona, which manufactures Mallow Cups. The pretzel company Auntie Anne's began as a market stand in Downingtown and now has corporate headquarters in Lancaster. 217 traditional Pennsylvania Dutch foods include chicken pot pie, ham pot pie, schnitz and nepp dried apples, ham and dumplings, fastnucks or raised donuts, scrapple, pretzels, bologna, chow chow, and shoe fly pie. Martin's famous pastry shop, based in Chambersburg, Pennsylvania, specializes in potato bread, another traditional Pennsylvania Dutch food. D.G. Jungling and Son, America's oldest brewery, has been brewing beer in Pottsville since 1829. Among the regional foods associated with Philadelphia are cheese steaks, hoagies, soft pretzels, Italian water ice, Irish potato candy, scrapple, tastikaki, and strombolis. In Pittsburgh, tomato ketchup was improved by Henry John Heinz from 1876 to the early 20th century. Famous to a lesser extent than Heinz ketchup is the Pittsburgh's Primanti Brothers restaurant sandwiches, pierogies, and city chicken. In northeastern Pennsylvania, Italian heritage has popularized a variety of pizza styles. Outside of Scranton, in Old Forge, there are dozens of Italian restaurants specializing in pizza made with thick, light crust, and American cheese. New York-style pizza is popular in Wilkes-Barre. Erie also has its share of foods, including Greek sauce and sponge candy. Sauerkraut along with pork and mashed potatoes is a traditional meal on New Year's Day in Pennsylvania. Its tradition began with the Pennsylvania Dutch, who believe the meal leads to good luck in the new year to come. Among other foods and drinks commonly found in Pennsylvania Dutch country are chicken pot pie, a type of soup made with egg noodles, and unrelated to the more commonly found baked pie, shoe fly pie, scrapple, sand tarts, a type of thin cookie, and birch beer. Whoopie pies, an American favorite, are also said to trace their roots back to Pennsylvania Dutch country. Sports Maine article. Sports in Pennsylvania. Profin Sports Philadelphia Eagles are presented with the Vince Lombardi Trophy on February 4, 2018, after winning Super Bowl 52, in which they defeated the New England Patriots 41-33. Pittsburgh Steelers fans waving the terrible towel, a tradition that dates back to 1975. Citizens Bank Park in South Philadelphia, home of the Philadelphia Phillies, the oldest continuous same name, same city franchise in American professional sports. NASCAR racing at Pocono Raceway in Long Pond, Pennsylvania is home to 8 major league professional sports teams: the Philadelphia Phillies and Pittsburgh Pirates of Major League B.A. Sable, the Philadelphia 76ers of the NBA, the Philadelphia Eagles and Pittsburgh Steelers of the NFL, the Philadelphia Flyers and Pittsburgh Penguins of the NHL, and the Philadelphia Union of Major League Soccer. Among them, these teams have accumulated 7 World Series championships, with the Pirates winning 5 and Phillies winning 2. 16 National League pennants, with the Pirates winning 9 and Phillies winning 7. 3 pre-Super Bowl-era NFL championships, all won by the Eagles. 8 Super Bowl championships, with the Steelers winning 6 and the Eagles 2. 2 NBA championships, both won by the 76ers, and 7 Stanley Cup championships, with the Penguins winning 5, with 5 professional sports teams and some of the most passionate sports fans in the nation. Philadelphia is often described as the nation's best sports city. 218-219. In addition to its 2 Major League Baseball franchises, Pennsylvania is home to 2 triple-level teams, the highest level of minor league baseball play. The Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs, affiliated with the Philadelphia Phillies, are based in Allentown, where they play at Coca-Cola Park. The Scranton Wilkes-Barre Rail Riders, affiliated with the New York Yankees, are based in Moosic, where they play at PNC Field. Pennsylvania is home to 4 double-level baseball teams, the Altoona Curve, Erie Seawolves, Harrisburg Senators, and Reading Fightin' Phils. Pennsylvania has 2 collegiate summer baseball teams affiliated with the MLB Draft League, the State College Spikes, and Williams Sport Crosscutters. In independent baseball, the state has 3 teams, the Lancaster Stormers, Washington Wild Things, and York Revolution. In addition to its 2 National Hockey League teams, Pennsylvania has 3 American Hockey League ice hockey teams, the Hershey Bears affiliated with the Washington Capitals, the Lehigh Valley Phantoms affiliated with the Philadelphia Flyers, and the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins affiliated with the Pittsburgh Penguins. It also has an ECHL-level ice hockey team, the Reading Royals, and an Arena Football League team, the Philadelphia Soul. These Pennsylvania-based developmental-level professional teams have accumulated 12 AAA and AA baseball league titles, Altoona Curve 1, Reading Fightin' Phils 4, and Scranton Wilkes-Barre Senators 6, 3 Arena Bowl championships Soul, and 11 Calder Cup Bears. In addition to the Philadelphia Union of Major League Soccer, Pennsylvania has 2 lower-level professional soccer teams, Philadelphia Union 2 of MLS Next Pro, and the Pittsburgh Riverhounds SC of the USL Championship. 220 since 1959, the Little League World Series has been held annually in August in South Williamsport, near where Little League Baseball was founded in Williamsport. 221 in professional golf, Arnold Palmer, one of the 20th century's most accomplished professional golfers, comes from Latrobe, and Jim Furyk, a current PGA player, grew up near in Lancaster. PGA tournaments in Pennsylvania include the 84 Lumber Classic played at Nemacolin Woodlands Resort in Farmington, and the Northeast Pennsylvania Classic, played at Glen More National Golf Club in Moosic. Philadelphia is home to Love Park, located across from City Hall, which is a popular skateboard location that hosted ESPN's The 10th Games in 2001 and 2002. 222 Motorsports and Motorsports. The Mario Andretti dynasty of race drivers hails from Nazareth in the Lehigh Valley. Pennsylvania racetracks include Jennerstown Speedway in Jennerstown, Lake Erie Speedway in Northeast, Lernerville Speedway in Sarver, and Pocono Raceway in Long Pond, which is home to NASCAR Cup Series races and an IndyCar Series race. The state is also home to Maple Grove Raceway, near Reading, which hosts major National Hot Rod Association-sanctioned drag racing events each year. There are also 2 motocross racetracks that host a round of the AMA Toyota Motocross Championships in Pennsylvania. High Point Raceway is located in Mount Morris, Pennsylvania, and Steel City is located in Dalemont, Pennsylvania. Horse racing tracks in Pennsylvania include the Meadows in North Strabane Township, Mohegan, Pennsylvania in Wilkes-Barre, Penn National in Grantville, Presque Isle Downs in Summit Township, and Parks Racing, Harris, Philadelphia and Chester, which was the home course of Smarty Jones, winner of the 2000 for Kentucky Derby and 2000 for Preakness Stakes. Harris, Philadelphia also hosts harness racing, and Presque Isle Downs also hosts thoroughbred racing. College sports and college football. 3 Pennsylvania universities compete in NCAA Division I, the highest level of sanctioned collegiate play in the sport. Penn State in the Big Ten Conference, Pitt in the Atlantic Coast Conference, and Temple in the American Athletic Conference. Over their respective college football histories, Penn State claims to national championships 1982 and 1986, and 7 undefeated seasons 1887, 1912, 1968, 1969, 1973, 1986, and 1994, and Pitt has won 9 national championships: 1915, 1916, 1918, 1929, 1931, 1934, 1936, 1937, and 1976, and had 8 undefeated seasons: 1904, 1910, 1915, 1916, 1917, 1920, 1937, and 1976. 223 Penn State plays its home games at Beaver Stadium, a 106,572 capacity stadium that is the second largest stadium in the nation. The team is coached by James Franklin. Pitt plays its home games at Acrisure Stadium, a 68,400 capacity stadium it shares with the Pittsburgh Steelers. The team is coached by Pat Narduzzi. Over their respective histories, for additional Pennsylvania universities and colleges have won national college football championships: Lafayette in Easton 1896, Villanova in Villanova 2009, Penn in Philadelphia 1895, 1897, 1904, and 1908, 224, and Washington and Jefferson in Washington 1921. In college basketball, 5 Philadelphia and Philadelphia area universities, collectively known as the Big Five, have a tradition in NCAA Division I basketball. National titles in college basketball have been won by La Salle 1954, Temple 1938, Penn 1920 and 1921, Pitt 1928 and 1930, and Villanova 1985, 2016, and 2018. Pennsylvania has several universities and colleges known as national leaders in college wrestling. Penn State, coached by Cale Sanderson, has won 10 NCAA Division I wrestling championships in its history, second most among all universities and colleges after Oklahoma State. Lehigh and Bethlehem has had 28 NCAA Division I individual champions over its history. The Philadelphia Eagles are a professional American football team based in Philadelphia. The Eagles compete in the National Football League (NFL) as a member of the National Football Conference NFC East Division. The team plays its home games at Lincoln Financial Field in the South Philadelphia Sports Complex. 7 Jeffrey Lurie in 2010. The franchise was established in 1933 as a replacement for the bankrupt Frankfurt Yellow Jackets when a group led by Bert Bell secured the rights to an NFL franchise in Philadelphia. Since their formation, the Eagles have appeared in the playoffs 31 times, won 16 division titles, including 13 in the NFC East, appeared in for pre-merger NFL championship games, winning 3 of them: 1948, 1949, and 1960, and appeared in 5 Super Bowls, winning Super Bowls 52 and licks. The Philadelphia Eagles rank among the best teams in the NFL for attendance and have sold out every home game continuously since the 1999 season. 8-9 The Eagles are owned by Jeffrey Lurie, who bought the team in 1994 for $185 million. 10. In December 2024, the Eagles became one of the first teams in the NFL to sell an ownership stake to outside investors. The deal sold 8% of the franchise at a valuation of $8.3 billion. 10. The Philadelphia 76ers, also known colloquially as the Sixers, are an American professional basketball team based in the Philadelphia metropolitan area. B. The 76ers compete in the National Basketball Association (NBA) as a member of the Atlantic Division of the Eastern Conference. The team plays its home games at Wells Fargo Center located in the South Philadelphia Sports Complex. Founded in 1946 and originally known as the Syracuse Nationals, they are one of the oldest franchises in the NBA and one of only 8 out of 23 to survive the league's first decade. The team is owned and managed by Harris Blitzer Sports and Entertainment (HBSE), with founders Josh Harris and David Blitzer acquiring the team in 2011. The 76ers have had a prominent history, with many Hall of Fame players having played for the organization, including Dolph Schayes, Hal Greer, Wilt Chamberlain, Chet Walker, Billy Cunningham, George McGinnis, Julius Erving, Maurice Cheeks, Bobby Jones, Moses Malone, Charles Barkley, and Allen Iverson. The 76ers have won 3 NBA championships. Their first came as the Syracuse Nationals in 1955, before the franchise moved to Philadelphia. The second title came in 1967, a team which was led by Chamberlain. The third title came in 1983, won by a team led by Irving and Malone. The 76ers have only been back to the NBA Finals once since, in 2001, when they were led by Iverson and lost to the Los Angeles Lakers in 5 games. Chamberlain, Irving, Malone, Iverson, and Joel Embiid have been named the NBA's most valuable player while playing for the 76ers for a total of 7 MVP awards. Nicknames: since 1802, Pennsylvania has been known as the Keystone State, which remains the state's most popular and widely used nickname. 225. The nickname Keystone State originates with the agricultural and architectural term keystone, and is based on the central role that Pennsylvania played geographically and functionally among the original 13 colonies from which the nation was established. The important founding documents, including the Declaration of Independence and U.S. Constitution, that were signed and ratified in Pennsylvania, and the central role that Pennsylvania played in the nation's early manufacturing and agricultural development. 226, 227. Less often, Pennsylvania is referred to as the Coal State, the Oil State, and the Steel State, in recognition of the important role these respective industries played in the state in the 19th and 20th centuries. 228. The State of Independence appears on several current-day road signs entering Pennsylvania from bordering states. Pennsylvania residents and those of surrounding states sometimes refer to Pennsylvania by the state's abbreviation, PA. 229. Pennsylvania was historically referred to by the nickname Quaker State during the colonial era. 230. Based on the influential role that William Penn and other Quakers played in establishing the FRST frame of government constitution for the province of Pennsylvania that guaranteed liberty of conscience, which was a reflection of Penn's knowledge of the hostility Quakers confronted when they opposed religious rituals, taking oaths, violence, war, and military service, and what they viewed as ostentatious frippery.